the ashes, the spirits light up the night, looking down the edge of forever. So stop me or take my advice.
Now, from the Untold Radio Network, it's Untold Radio AM with Doug and Hajicek.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, Untold Radio.
You survived today.
Yes, I did.
It was kind of nuts.
Another crazy day.
Yeah. So today is episode 140. I don't know why. Is that important? No, not really.
That's a good number.
It's 140. I don't know. It's a lot of shows. Seems like more, though.
Yeah, it seems like more.
I think these things are hard on us.
Well, these live shows, yeah, stuff comes up.
Anyhow, but we have 3 guests tonight. Should I say the word amazing? We have 3 amazing guests tonight.
Amazing.
John Ayers, who is a listener, who I met as a listener, but he has a weird job. And that's why
Interesting. Fascinating.
Well, it's weird. I think it's weird. It's fascinating. Yeah, to me it is.
Interesting.
Because I'm interested in what he does. So it doesn't mean y'all be real interested, but I think you will. John's also one of the wittiest people on the planet.
I'll try to keep up.
Okay,
by the way, he's in the back room. I just want to wave to him.
Oh, hey. Yeah, he knows. Yeah, we know you're there, John. And then we have Kenneth Collins.
Yes.
Tonight, who is a Bigfoot researcher, dabbles in, I think UFO research and some other things, but Kenneth Collins is in the back room. We then have the best-selling author, Max Hawthorne, on.
Yes, Max.
He wrote the amazing book series, Kronos Rising, right, amongst other books. And he's not only an author, he's a researcher. He's also a cryptid researcher. He's an award-winning fisherman, too. He's got a fishing record, even.
Got his hands in a lot of pies.
But he's going to talk about some really solid evidence of a 32-foot shark, which may be a great white or maybe that long-lost species megalodon.
You never know.
The people do, by the way, people do report those.
The megalodon, the Meg.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that movie, The Meg?
No, I haven't actually. I'm afraid enough to go in the water. I don't need. I think back at some of the things I've done in places I've swam in the ocean.
Yeah.
And I think back on it and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? I could have been killed, because I have swam in shark-infested waters, and I have seen sharks underwater while I was swimming. Salt water is great to swim in if you've never have, because you're extremely buoyant, so you don't have to be the greatest swimmer in the world.
Yeah, you're a nice bobber for a shark.
Yeah, but if you like laying in the sun like I do, like if I go to Haiti or Dominican Republic or Jamaica or, Mexico, I like to lay in the sun, and just bake in the sun, oil up, bake in the sun, talk to people, drink margaritas, whatever. But then I like to take a nice swim in the ocean, just to cool off and refresh yourself. And I don't go way out there, but I swim underwater and I enjoy it. And then I think back on it and I think, what was I thinking? So
you like to go swimming once the banana boats got you all crispy?
Yeah, exactly. And then when the vendors come, there's always vendors that come by, you're laying in, like, how much for your shoes? They try to buy stuff off you, or they try to sell you something, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then when the vendors come by, I always say, how much for everything?
How much for everything?
Everything. I just try to freak them out, yeah. For everything they have.
What do they say?
And I negotiate with them. Huh?
You negotiate?
On everything. Anyhow, I just have fun. It's kind of a streaky thing. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, so we have 3 guests. It's going to be kind of a weird show. But I thought tonight, instead of clips, I would just do trivia.
Trivia. Yeah.
Just skip. Cool. Just take a break from it one time, just once. We'll get back to it next. And plus, we have 3 guests, so we got to kind of get going here, right?
Yes, we do.
So I basically scour the web so you don't have to for these weird things. You're like,
what do you got for me?
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, first let's talk about salt for just a second. Because salt used to be a currency. Did you know that?
I did know that.
You did. You know that saying, the guy wasn't worth his weight in salt, or wasn't worth his salt? Well, that comes from paying people in salt. Like in the Roman Empire, they paid people. You'd work all day, they'd give you a pinch of salt. That's it. So it says salt was so valuable in ancient Rome that soldiers were sometimes paid with it, right? In fact, the word salary even comes from the Latin word sal, which is salt. Okay? So if you were a soldier, for instance, and you were doing a lousy job, your paycheck might be cut. You'd get 1 pinch instead of 2. And then that expression, not worth his salt. That's where it came from. Anyhow, did you know the most expensive salt is what? Do you know?
Himalayan salt.
No, it's called Amaseth bamboo salt. It's 9 times what even Himalayan salt costs. It's $398 a pound.
$398 a pound?
Yeah, and so here's how they make it. They take a bamboo stalk, they fill it with salt, and then they roast it in the bamboo stalk. And they heat it up to, it says 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit, but I'm like, no, they don't. They couldn't. Exceeding 1,400 in a bamboo bowl. Anyhow, then they pour it out, and you get this earthy smelling salt. I don't know. Enough of that crap. Okay. 75% of all the sodium and salt that we eat comes from processed food. It's not from the salt shaker. Bread, cured meats, canned soup, top the list. McDonald's, French fries. I actually went to McDonald's today, by the way, and I did not order French fries on purpose.
Why?
Because I wanted to cut down on my sodium. Because we're doing a show on salt.
But you're worth your weight in salt.
Yeah. I don't know. Sea salt, it says, isn't healthier. It's not. But other people say it is because it contains a lot of other minerals. So I don't know. The jury's out on that one.
Isn't it bigger? I like those bigger. I like those big pieces of salt.
Salt is more, sea salt is more salty flavor, I think.
Feels that way.
And have you noticed the food is getting saltier and saltier? Have you noticed?
Yeah.
Or is that just me? Tell us in chat. Do you think the food's getting more and more saltier tasting? Or is it just my imagination?
No, it's everywhere.
So only 53% of table salt today is iodized, which contains iodine.
Iodine?
So isn't that weird? That salt, they put iodine in salt. They don't add it to any other food.
No.
They're not going, here's our oatmeal that we're making. We're going to put some iodine drops in here. So it helps your thyroid, So I don't know. Who knows? That one's weird to me. So most of the salt eaten in the United States, or produced, it doesn't used in food. So most of it, 44% is used in the roads, on the roads. So we'll see what John Ayers knows about salt.
Yeah, you've taken all his thunder. What is he going to talk about?
I don't know.
You're like, all right.
He never said to me, I'm a salt expert. He never said, oh, Doug, I'm a salt expert.
Everything that could be said about salt, he's
Well, if he's an expert, he'll know a lot more than I'm talking.
You want to put him to the test?
Salt is addictive. I know that. Very addictive.
Yeah. The only thing more addictive than salt is a salt miner.
Have you ever gone into the pantry going and just like rumbling to yourself?
Yeah.
And going, I'm craving salt. You're just talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. And you get some salt. You grab a cold beer or a purple junk.
Yeah, do you have your purple junk?
Oh yeah, I got my purple junk, of course. Okay, what else we got here? La 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 la. Oh my God! You know what I did?
What?
I did not. Oh my God! You wouldn't believe this. I did not. I had all this trivia done. I mean, it's a lot of work. I typed out all this stuff, and I didn't send it to myself. It's in the other room. It's not in the studio. You know what that means?
What does that mean?
We're gonna bring John Ayers on.
We're gonna bring John on.
Yeah,
7:15, right on schedule.
Yeah, I'm just gonna skip it all.
Yeah, let's skip it.
People will probably be mad, or they'll be happy. They'll either be mad or happy.
Well, they'll be furious, but
that I'm shutting up here.
But they'll be excited to have John on.
Yeah, let's get him on.
Hello.
There he is,
Mr. John.
How we doing? John. I pushed the button tonight, Doug.
Yeah, you did. That's how we see you. Yeah, we appreciate it. Last time John was going to be on, he didn't finish the entry to the studio, and this time he did. There's one extra button you got to push, and he did. Good.
That's part of StreamYard.
Yeah. Anyhow, it's really good to see you, and I do want to thank you for all of your patronage, and man, you've logged a lot of hours watching our shows.
A lot of time.
Yeah, that's good.
If it wasn't good, I wouldn't be watching.
Well, good. That's nice.
Thank you.
So, okay, so you have a very interesting job. I said weird job. Alex said interesting. I think it's weird and interesting.
It takes a different kind of person.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I've done a little bit of spelunking in, regular caves. Obviously, I've never been in a salt mine, which is basically a salt cave, right? I mean, it's man-made. Well, go ahead and tell us. Tell us about, you get up in the morning. What do you do? How do you prepare for your job? And then tell us about just kind of getting there and getting to work and then going to work.
Get up in the morning, get your coffee, get your boots and stuff on, get to work. Then you got to put your gear on. You got to wear a self-rescuer. You got to wear high vis, which Alex has seen before when I did my little interview before. Hard hat, cap lamp. And then we go 1,265 feet underground.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's tell people how far that is. So a mile is about what, 5,700 or 5,200 feet, right? A mile?
I'm about 160 foot farther underground than the World Trade Centers were tall.
Whoa. And you're that far straight down?
Yes. And that's operational level. But then when we mine out in our valleys and hills, there's some places we can be 1,600 to 2,000 feet underground. Okay.
Do you ever worry about cave-ins? Do you worry about oxygen? Do you worry about explosion? I mean, what's going through your head when you go to work?
Not at this point. After 22 years of this, actually your first part of cave-ins, that's basically my job. I run a machine, looks like a track hoe with a reverse boom. And my job is to go in and make sure that roof is steady and bring down slabs and chunks of rock and everything.
Gosh.
It's the cab is 1 7/8 solid steel all around me. And yeah, I've taken a few hits. You need to step back and take a breath afterward, but then you go right back to work.
So when you're down there, you're probably used to it now, but when you first started, if you can remember, did you actually come home with salt in your mouth and tasting salt? And are you ingesting it and breathing it?
daily basis. When I get out of work, I look like somebody hit me with a giant powder puff.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm covered.
So you do get it in your mouth, I would imagine.
Yep.
You do taste it. So is the salt mine that you work in both for table salt and, road salt for
Nope.
de-icing or water
Just
softeners?
just plainly road salt. American rock salt is road salt. We do bag salt and also vaporized jugs. It's just for de-icing.
Okay. How about water softener?
No. We know it's used for that, but we do not do that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how do you extract the salt, John? I mean, this is where it gets interesting and scary.
First you go in with what's called an undercutter, and it's got a 10-foot bar on it. Looks like a giant chainsaw. You're going to cut a 10-foot slot in the floor across the face. It's about 6 inches wide. Then your drill will come in, put all the holes in it, load it with the ammonium nitrate, and blast it. And the next process is myself coming in, or they'll come in and hand scale first, where I wouldn't be able to reach with the machine, and then I'll go and machine scale it. Make sure the roof's safe for people to work under.
So when you say you blast it, I mean, how big of an explosion happens under there?
Each one of our rooms is a little bit more potent than what Timothy McVeigh used.
Really?
Yes.
So this is serious.
There's like about 48 holes, 1 7/8 diameter hole filled with ammonium nitrate with a blasting cap in the back.
Oh my goodness! And that's basically a fertilizer-based explosion, explosive. Yeah. And you're doing this, but what I don't understand is how in the world can you be that deep with that much pressure above you, and how can that be stable? I mean, just explain that to us. It's
hard for people to understand, but salt itself is very elastic. And what we try to do is leave 3+ foot of salt in the ceiling, and that actually stays up pretty good. But there's times when we do get into the rock, and that's when they'll come in with another machine after I've scaled it, made it all pretty, and it's a roof bolter. And they put anywhere from a 10-foot mechanical bolt to a 20-foot cable bolt that's grouted to hold the roof up.
Wow. I don't know. It just sounds... What's the word I like to use? Janky? Look at Alex. Look at the look on his face. He's just sitting there agape.
I'm just... I couldn't do it. You are much braver than I am. Jeez.
So is there an elevator? How do you get down there?
It's an elevator. We call it the cage or man trip. And actually the actual operational cage, you can probably put 40 to 50 guys on one trip. If that's not working, we have what's called a bullet, and you can get like 8 to 12 guys on that each time. Or we do have another shaft that's just production, where the salt comes in and out, and you can ride the top of the skips if absolutely need be. So there's multiple ways in and out.
So how did this salt, I mean, I don't even understand how that much salt gets in this vein, or whatever what do you call it? Is it a salt vein?
Yes, it's a salt vein. And what it was is actually a sea 4.5 million years ago that has solidified. And now all the stuff above it is what 4.5 million years of Earth materializes.
So are you saying the ocean was that far down lower than
that was ocean today? Level? That was ocean level at that time.
So the ocean was 1,200 feet lower.
Yes.
How many million years ago, John?
4.5.
That isn't that long ago on Earth.
4.5 million years.
So the sea levels are rising, or have risen tremendously since 2 million years ago. And
then you also have to realize that land has risen above that as well, because when that dried up, that was just a barren life. And now we got 1,265 foot of sediment on top of it that we went down through to get to it.
Wow. It's strange. And do you think we're ever in danger of running out of salt, John? Ever?
Probably not.
Never.
Because not only that, they have plants where they actually take it right out of the ocean.
Okay.
And you can get salt that way as well.
And that's getting more popular for food, I would imagine, nowadays.
Yeah. And where we're working right now, without buying another mineral, right? Last I knew, we still have 90 years of production without buying any more mineral rights.
Just 90 more years into the future. You're good.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm going to make that, though.
That's job security.
Well, Alex might if he keeps putting lotion on. Okay.
But then in your intro there, you mentioned that evil word of how popular the Himalayan salt is because it's orange.
Yeah.
Doug, I'm nowhere near Himalaya. I'm going backwards here.
No,
That came out of our mine, and that's the same orange salt. And I'm nowhere near Himalaya.
Pink, not orange. You mean pink?
Yeah, it's pinkish and orange.
Yeah.
It actually, the salt color depends on what minerals were near it when it solidified, and that's what makes it.
Okay.
Now,
why is Himalayan salt pink? What is, I mean,
it's just one of their marketing ploys is what basically it is. It's Himalayan salt. It's so much better for you.
It just sounds pure. It's just a marketing thing.
Here's the same thing. I brought that up out of work.
So what happens to the ammonium nitrate after the blast happens? Does that just turn into a gas, or is there some residue?
Yep. And after blasting, you have to let it air out. We have multimeters. It checks for your oxygen level, NO2, methane, CO, and all that. So, and we have a very decent airflow down there.
Huh. Is it mechanically pumped in the air?
Yes. There's a surface fan at the production hoist, and basically like a giant vacuum sucks through, and then you have your different yard fans and circulatory fans throughout the mine that just keep it going. And as we move forward, we British curtain off the older, so all your air flows out around the working face.
Mm. Have you ever suffered like a power outage down there? Could you imagine? You have? Oh my God. Okay.
But
I will talk to you later, John. Goodbye.
No, luckily our bullet cage, the auxiliary cage I told you about with the 8 to 12 guys per trip on it, that's a diesel powered. So even if power goes out, they can still, bring us up and get us out.
But that's got to be an unsettling feeling to just see it get. That's got to be dark.
I can't explain it to you, but if you were to go down and we shut all the lights off, including your cap lamp, you put your hand here, you're not going to see it.
Nothing.
Like it's so that dark. And it's actually, if you're out, like if we're moving up a yard and nobody's really working in it, I'm just working, and like I'll stop for lunch or something, very, very peaceful. Very, a lot of people don't like it. Myself, been doing it for so long, it's just relax time.
You get sounds like you get something out of that.
Yeah,
quiet.
You just don't have the distractions of my cell phone's not going to go off in my pocket. And
no, that's true.
And
I'm
other
going to try to call you tomorrow.
Go ahead, but my wife will probably answer because I don't even take it underground. There's not much point.
So, okay. Does metal down there rust more? If somebody brings a pocket knife or drops one, do you find it all rusty?
Not really. It's kind of deceiving because down below it's so dry, you don't have the humidity and moisture.
Oh, yeah.
But if all of a sudden you take a piece of equipment that's been down underground for 5-6 years, you bring it up top, expose it to the atmosphere, you could actually almost sit there and listen to it rust.
So salt is a type of a desiccant then. Absorbs moisture.
Yep. Salt actually will absorb moisture.
Okay.
What's really weird, a lot of people takes a couple minutes to get used to, but in your first couple of years when you're working there, when you go underground where the fresh air is coming in at the production shaft, there's actually times when it's so much humidity in the air, it'll be raining underground because the salt is absorbed so much. Now it's just dripping out of it. It's kind of a hard concept to understand, but but by the time you're 3 crosscuts pillars away, it starts drying up because it's just sucked all the moisture out of the air before it gets that far.
Okay, so Helton asks, he goes, do you salt your food?
Absolutely not.
You don't?
If we're off on a shutdown or something and I've been away from the mine for 2 to 3 weeks, I might start thinking about, well, maybe I want to put some salt on my eggs this morning. But other than that, no, don't even think about it.
That's weird. Yeah. I
suppose you just burned out on it?
I'm seriously, I absorb it all day long and everything. That's what I joke with my doctor. He's told me before, you gotta kind of cut down on your salt intake. And it's like, Doc, I don't use any salt.
Oh, wow. It's like gets into your pores almost.
It's not really as much as the pores as when you breathe. You're breathing it in constantly, the dust, especially what I'm doing, or an undercutter or a driller that's constantly have that dust in the air.
So Greg Olson asked, do you ever find any anomalies in the salt or do you hear anything? Are there any haunts in the salt mine? Is there anything weird that ever happens? Like unexplained?
Not really anything that I've encountered. Other people have said things, but
I want to hear what they've said.
It has to be 10 to 15 years ago, but there was a gentleman that said he saw an Indian boy with his dog walk around the corner. Mm-hmm. Now, I've known him for a while, and it's like, he's one of them guys you can't really tell, okay, did he or didn't he, okay, what's going on? But it was about 2 months later, another guy come around the corner of the rib, and this gentleman was white. And he was sitting there, and it's like, what's the matter? And he said, I just saw a small boy and a dog walk in front of me. Whoa. And it's like, myself personally, no, I've never had it, never had that. Other anomalies, it's weird when you're getting close to rock, you'll see like perfectly white seams of salt. Very pretty, almost looks like a wave in it. But when you've been there long enough and you know what it's going to, it's not as pretty anymore.
Yeah. Have you ever found anything weird, yourself, like a weird rock or something? Just, pottery. God, I don't know.
No, not pottery or anything like fossils? That. But
how come there's no fossils down there?
But you're talking 4.5 million years ago, and it's just so concentrated and together. And when we get into what we call rock, it's almost like the shale rock. It's not really, and it's just real brittle and stuff. And
how was shale formed, John?
It's a sedimentary rock as well.
It's like limestone kind of.
Yeah, but also what's real weird with that, because it's been around the salt so much, if you take a piece of that shale up top and like set it on your patio or something, within a week to 2 weeks, it'll almost turn into a mud. Because the salt has sucked so much of the moisture out of it.
Oh, that's interesting. That's just so weird. So we have ghosts in the salt mine. I guarantee you're going to see that little boy with the dog.
Well, been working on it. Haven't yet.
That is weird too, because you wonder how in the world would that ghost be present that far down and that deep?
Well, especially, there is a lot of Indian heritage in our valley. With the I can't think of her name. Hold on just 1 second.
No, that's all right.
Colleen, the Indian girl from the park. Not Sacagawea.
What do they call that on that? What's that show, Alex, where you reach out to somebody for an answer? What do they call it?
Yeah,
phone a friend.
Lifeline.
Phone a friend. Yeah. John just phoned a friend.
It's like trying to get hold of my wife on the couch, and she's watching another video of something else. But also we have in Kylerville, we have what's known as the torture tree from where the Indians had captured some settlers. Kind of graphic, but supposedly opened them up, tacked their intestines to the tree, and made them walk around it.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks, John, for that.
Well, you're welcome. But you asked about the heritage and stuff of the area.
Okay. All right. We're going to change
So
the
it's,
subject.
so it's your fault, Doug.
So how come? Okay, if this salt came from the oceans, then why are there no fossils of sea creatures in it?
That I don't know. I think it's seriously because salt also deteriorate besides metal, other things as well. At 4.5 million years ago, and it's so compacted and together, it's just really hard to understand. Like if you go to the store and you buy a 10-pound bag of salt and you pick it up, it's like, wow, this size. But if you grab that same size of a solid chunk of salt,
right,
it's probably about 25 pounds. It's really weird to understand, but when you've been doing it long enough, but because once we break it apart, you put 10 pounds in a sack, fine. Now you take that same chunk and you're talking twice the weight.
Wow. So do they pay you pretty good for doing this?
Oh, now that they're increasing a lot of minimum wage, it's not as good as it was a few years ago, but yes, very decent for what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think Paul Guffey asked, he said, do you have good life insurance?
Actually, yeah, pretty good. I'd hate to have to use it, but if anything happens down there, my wife won't have to worry for a while.
Oh man.
I knock on wood, don't want to talk about that.
Well,
but
have there ever been salt mine cave-ins?
Yeah, there are a lot. If you if you ever want to look it up and go on to it's mshaw.gov site, and you can look up a lot of different things, and all mining industries have a lot of fatalities, injuries. We've had some injuries. Knock on wood, we've never had a fatality the entire time American Rock Salt's been open.
So,
like I said, knock on wood.
What have you learned about safety? Because you've been doing it for such a long time. I imagine you've picked up things you do, you don't do, things you avoid, things to look out for.
That as well in that aspect of it, but I also brought a lot of it into it because of I got 19 years EMS and fire. And when I first started at the mine, to be on mine rescue team, you got to be underground for a year first. I was on mine rescue team within 3 weeks with my background.
So can you take visitors if I come visit you? You'll take me down?
It has to be set up in advance. And yeah, we could probably do that, but that's going to be a couple day drive for you. But and that girl I was talking about for the history, my wife just looked it up. It's Mary Jameson, the white woman of the Genesee. If you look up like Letchworth State Park, which is my backyard, there's a lot of history with that. Back to
the tree with the circling intestines.
Well, she wasn't part of that, but
she just watched.
Yes, Channel 13. I'm responsible for your car skirting into junk. But if the salt wasn't on the road, your car would have slid into the ditch and turned into junk before that.
Yeah. So first thing you want to know, Channel 13, do not mess with John Ayers. he will wit you away because he wits me away. Sometimes I spit food out when I read his comments.
Yeah, if you see him turn his camera off, that's what he's doing.
Oh my God!
I try to keep it interesting for you too, Doug.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's So, how many people in chat love John? All you got to do is put a heart, and then we'll know. We'll know. Okay, so there's no fossils. There's a lot of shale. Is it mainly? Do you ever run into an agate or something else?
No,
some other kind of rock.
No, it's just
always shale.
Yep, because you got to remember as the ocean's drying up and also making mud as it's drying up, and that's what it's coated in.
Yeah, but there's mud. There's got to be creatures in there.
Yeah, there may be, but I mean, we're talking. It'd have to be microbe. I seriously have never.
Have you ever put some of the raw salt under a microscope are those little diatoms and
Not really put them under a microscope and looked. I've never done that. What I always find neat is
John,
how
John, look at what Channel 13 just put up.
he's got a broken heart.
Broken heart.
It's okay. I got broad shoulders.
Oh my God.
Is how what do you call it? Would be reflective salt is, because if you take as they have those salt lamps that they make. But even the light of a cell phone, if I were to take a piece and put cell phone underneath there, put the light on it, it just glows.
Really?
Yeah, salt just irradiates light out.
So what about under UV light, like UV flashlight? Would it glow?
I'm honestly, I've never used a UV light on it. I couldn't tell you that honestly. That's a good question. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
I'm going to try it tonight.
I don't have a UV light.
Oh, right. But the salt I have, of course, is iodized.
Right.
Full
Your
of
table
iodine,
salt and that.
So who knows? Yeah, you have to go down and get softener salt. So what is the difference? Why is it your salt ends up on the road and not in the water softener? Is it a purity?
It's more of a purity issue because we do have a lot of rock minerals in that.
Okay.
And you just would have to do a lot of refining and everything else.
Ah, I gotcha. So you'd end up drinking a piece of shale.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a piece of shale or, some other mineral or whatever it is. I didn't see it, but we've got oranges, we've got pinks, we've got some that are almost brick red. But when they were putting our gallery, which processes our salt before it goes to the surface, is all underground, very deep dug, actually probably 60 to 70 feet deep from the bottom of the surge bin and up. When they were digging that, they got some bluish green salt.
Really?
Yeah. I never saw that because it was pre my time, but more than one person has told me that they had found a vein of that.
Huh? You need to smuggle out a tablespoon of that.
Orange and pink I can get you.
So do you own a salt shaker at home?
We do, but I don't use it. My wife and daughter do, but I don't. Maybe a little pepper now and then. All
you have to do is maybe shake your beer over the food.
You'd be surprised.
Do you take a shower when you get back every?
Oh yeah, you gotta. You're coated. Totally serious. You're coated.
What about germs down there? You'd think it would be pretty germ free, like totally germ free.
It seems to be, but of course we've also since 2020 we have a lot of sanitation stations and everything else.
Oh yeah, we don't say that word.
Yeah.
You know what word?
I'm not even gonna say it.
Last time we said that word, we had a bit of an issue. I'm
medically trained. I won't use that word.
Good. Good. Does anybody else have? I was going to ask you: are you a salt expert or no?
I can make salt pretty for you, and I can make sure the roof's safe above your head.
So when I was spouting off some of those salt facts, it was new to you too?
No, some of them I do know, and like different terminology from being under, the mine, like the working face, and when you leave is the foot. Reason being is when mining first originally started way back when, you'd be on your belly crawling in, mining whatever you're mining, your working face. You want to leave, you got to go back towards your foot. You're laying on your belly, that's your floor.
Gotcha.
Your ribs are your walls, and your back is your ceiling.
How big of an area, like on the surface, does this salt mine take up? How many acres?
On the surface, our surface plant, I sent you that picture last week. One of our guys took coming into work with just the sun coming up. What you saw there, that's about it as surface. We're probably not even half a mile long, and we're in between Route 63 and Interstate 390 in Livingston County. If you ever
so it's safe
it up
to
on
say,
a map.
But it's probably safe. You've got 500 or more acres.
No, I wouldn't.
No,
I wouldn't put
really?
it that high. I wouldn't put it that high. I'd put it closer to 50 or so.
Wow. that's crazy.
Yeah, we're actually really thin. You know, we've got our two shafts, our office building, a surface shop, and then our pad, our truck loadout. We actually have our own siding for rail. We load out on rail and truck. But other than that, we're really not that wide, and we're probably maybe a quarter mile long, maybe 3/4 of a mile long.
It's very cool. Do you have any photos or anything, Alex, before we?
I do have that video that we tried to have you on before. I don't know if you're the one that shared it. John, is the American Rock Salt Tour?
Yeah,
one video.
Well,
Yep.
is it okay? Is that your plant, John?
Yes, one.
Oh, it is.
There's actually two
let's play a
videos I
couple
sent
minutes.
Alex. One is a virtual tour that we did ourselves, and the other one is by Caterpillar, who makes our loaders, and that was a professional done video, but that is also done in our mind.
Okay.
Well, if there's sound, we probably shouldn't play the sound.
You can, because actually when you first approached me about coming on, I have full permission from American Rock.
No, I realize, but then YouTube squeals on you to somebody else, and then you have to fight them. But they're the ones that tattle on you. It's really weird.
You wouldn't believe it. We've had so many guests on where they show their own work, right?
And then I have to fight. Yeah.
And it's not them. It's literally YouTube's automatic reporting system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because the virtual tour, the only thing that's sound that's there would be young Joe Busey is describing what you're seeing and what's going on. So
we don't
know.
I don't know. If you want to throw it up real quick, we got to get Kenneth on soon. But
or I can actually
no, you can just kind of tell
elaborate
us.
if need be.
You can tell us what we're looking at. You can skip around.
That's our whole surface mine right there.
So we want to know what car is yours.
Is the pad right there. That's where our stockpile is. And this is the cage I told you about. The guy's going down in.
Okay. I think it goes down quick.
Yep. And as you can tell by what gentlemen are wearing, when this video was shot, but this is all underground, what you're seeing right now. It's kind of sped up, but it gives you an idea.
I would hope it's sped up.
Yep. This is our underground maintenance shop right here.
Looks like
do they have like, I'm sorry. Do they have different floors, John, where you can?
No, we're all one level.
It's one level. Either you're at the bottom or you're not anywhere.
Right.
Gotcha.
Now, as they're driving along, if you see the white scratches in the ceiling, that's what I do.
And those reinforce.
Yep. That's a face drill you're looking at right now. Made by Fletcher Corporation.
So you guys don't dig at the, it's okay. So do you dig at the ceiling or just the walls?
I dig at the ceiling. With the scaler, I dig at the ceiling. I dig at the wall. I dig at the whatever looks loose to bring it down. Even if I'm machine scaling and like there's a loose chunk on the face, like right now he's got a handbar, that's handbar scaling. They see something that looks loose. That's the undercutter I told you about that would cut the face. Like I said, looks like a giant chainsaw.
Looks like a giant shark. What do they call those? Sawtooth shark?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
And that's something 10 foot right there. He's cutting 10 foot into the face. And at the bottom of the back of the bar, you see that where the hoses go, that's a tube, and it takes it over to another auger and piles it up, and it'll have piles across the face.
Well, what do you know about the dangers of spreading? Okay, I know obviously it melts the ice, saves tons of lives. I realize that.
Yep.
But is there any environmental issue with this salt, or does it?
Not really a lot. The benefits outweigh the consequences. The only main thing my concern is, especially this time of year, is with the people with motorcycles. Let it rain a few times, guys. Get that loose stuff off the road, because it can be a little slick.
And then you do notice a lot of deer at the side of the road licking, like early in the spring.
Yep. It's just like when a farmer puts salt block out. Same principle.
Yep.
That's actually right there is a mobile fuel truck. And that's got all the fuel on it. You need diesel, oils, hydraulic. That's the smaller machine. That's a Wagner, smaller 3-yard bucket.
So what if you have to go to the bathroom when you're in the salt mine?
There's actually multiple outhouses. There's like 2 outhouses in each yard.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. And they're cleaned out weekly by a company.
There would be salt houses.
Yeah. And those loaders you're watching right there, those are the Caterpillar or E-Stones. And that's a 70-ton unit before it gets a bucket of salt. And it hauls 17 to 22 ton in a single bucket.
I don't know. I think I'm going to quit my day job and go work with John.
Come on down.
Yeah.
That's okay right there. What he's doing is hand barring.
Okay. That's
then
enough of that.
And the next will be, that's what I do. That's what I run right there.
Oh man, it didn't take a lot of effort to drop that 100-pound.
No. And that's what you gotta, they'll come in, like I said, they'll hand bar first just to see. And then I come in, and we actually own 9 of those machines, and we have another one on order.
I can only imagine how strict they are with safety.
Mm-hmm. You have to be.
Yeah, no.
It just becomes second nature.
Yep.
And this, what you're looking at, was the roof bolter I was telling you about, and putting the bolts into the ceiling.
Oh man.
And it's either mechanical or a 2-part epoxy that'll go up in there and hold it up in. And like I said, anywhere from 10 to a 20-foot bolt they can put in. And this is the process gallery I was telling you about. This is the surge bin where the salt comes in and dumps into there first, and then goes out feeders to the bottom of that, and then goes into the production gallery where it gets processed to go to the surface. That bin right there will hold 5,000 ton.
Okay, so the machine that was bolting the roof up, is that an area of the mine that's done? They're just done with that? They don't want to go any farther?
No, actually, they'll bolt if they feel that there's a necessity, maybe a little bit less assault or rock exposed, they'll come in and mesh and bolt it and stuff to make it safe so you can still travel under there and stuff.
Oh, I see. Okay.
If it was just
nuts.
If it was just done, they wouldn't waste the money of the bolting and everything to do it. And that's one of our skips. That's what hauls the salt out. And like I said, another one of the ways to get out if something were to go wrong and you couldn't ride the cage, then this is the cage coming back down to go back up.
It's pretty cool. Anything else we should zip through on this video quick before we...
Not really a lot. I mean, it does show you some other stuff, but
God, it's just, I don't know. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, salt is one of those things we all take for granted.
It is.
You know, we see the salt truck, salt in the roads. We put salt in our food. We just take it for granted, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that, what you're looking at, that's a tag in and out board. If you go underground, you put it on the inboard. If you're out, you tag out. That way, if they ever have to, you got an evac, or if they're like, let's say they're going to shoot rooms, they know who's underground, who's not underground. And this is the hoist that lowers and brings up the cage.
Oh, okay. So
above ground stuff.
Do you think that the salt mine would be a place to go if there was a nuclear attack? Would it be a good place to go?
I've been asked that question before, but I'd actually have to say no. I mean, from the initial blast, yes. But you're bringing in all the air and contaminants that the nuclear cloud will carry anyway.
Right. What about the effects of just breathing in salt powder? I mean, that's got to be interesting.
Well,
I mean, you're healthy, obviously.
Yeah, as healthy as can be expected. But, you know, like I carry iced tea and stuff with me all the time, right in the machine. And, you know, you get thirsty. And it's just as you'd think.
So you got to work on staying hydrated down there.
So Patrick asked, how many tons a day do you bring out of here?
My record's right around 18.5 to 19,000 ton in a day.
Oh, wow. 19,000 ton.
A day. right around is our record area.
So a ton is about 2,000 pounds.
I believe it's 2,200 pounds for a ton.
Well,
yep.
Sure. Thanks, John.
Hey, you're talking my lingo.
I know. God, that's crazy.
And these two engines are actually smaller engines that they leave right on our property. That way we can shuffle our cars as we're loading. And when it's all loaded up, then the railroad will come in, hook on, and take them away and bring fresh cars in.
So Channel 13 asked how much more is available. John had mentioned just this mine is good for another 90 years.
Without buying another mineral right, as we sit right now.
Right, and you could expand it.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
You have to buy more mineral rights.
Yay, John. Good job. No, this is really interesting to me. Super interesting. Hopefully other people found it interesting. We're going to sign off with you, John. We're going to fling you. You're welcome to stay in the back room, watch the show, do whatever. Maybe Alex might even let you back in once in a while.
Either that or what I'll do is pop out and go back into the regular chat so I can pick on the people.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, we're going to beam you into chat.
Hey, Alex, if I'm ever on again, when I'm in backstage, could you leave a donut or two back here? I mean, last time you ate them all, it was pretty boring back there, you know. Which was my fault. I totally admit. I didn't push the button.
Well, thank you so much, John. You're awesome.
Thank you for having me on.
We really want to see if you can up your game with the wit. You know, you need to up it a little bit.
Oh, come on, Doug.
Just 1 or 2 points. So you can get you a 12 or a 13 out of 10.
Oh, my God.
There you go.
Thank you, John Ayers.
Thank you.
And,
thank you.
We love you, and we will talk to you soon.
All right.
All right,
Bye.
Ken.
Super interesting. I got to introduce Ken. I can read. I actually have a bio. Other than John, it's just John works in a damn salt mine.
But Ken.
Okay, so this is Kenny Collins or Kenneth Collins. I don't know.
I call him Ken.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a third option, Ken. So I'm just going to go with Kenneth. Okay, Kenneth, somebody wrote the Bigfoot guy, so he obviously is into Bigfoot. He's been a Bigfoot researcher for over 30 years, right?
30 years.
And is a regular presenter at Bigfoot conferences. Says the majority of his research experience has been investigating Bigfoot actually in the field. So he's had 4 close encounters. And that's what I'm excited about. I don't even care. I mean, there's quite a bio here. This guy's been around. He does a lot of stuff. But let's just bring him in. Let's not waste any more time.
Hi, guys.
How's it going, Ken?
Doing good.
Hey, Kenneth.
Good.
What'd you think of the salt guy?
It's very interesting. That's hard work. And you got to thank those guys each and every day they come out of that environment, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he literally risks his life so we can be safer. And thank God there's real men like that are willing to do that kind of work.
That's for sure. I have a uncle named Floyd Collins who founded the Mammoth Cave system, and he died in a cave called Sand Cave, and he was spelunking down in there, and rock fell on his feet, and it's called the Floyd Collins story. So when he was telling me the story, I was really thinking back, like, yeah, that man's get down in those holes and do what they do. And
cool. Yeah, no, I know. Say, can you bring your mic just a little closer to your...
Okay.
There you go. Just a little bit. We want to hear you a little louder.
Yeah, I'm deaf in one ear, so I kind of hear it myself. And
there you go. That sounds better. Right, Alex?
Yeah.
Good, Alex.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to first, let's just jump right into your first encounter. I want to hear about it.
Well,
tell us about it, Ken.
Yeah, coming to Estes Park, Colorado, I brought my research from the Colorado Springs area, and in 2007 we came up here, and I started doing some research around the Estes Park area, and but never prior to the 2013, I never really have any sightings. I always got into going out in the woods and seeing everything, but not getting the Class A that I wanted. So we decided to come to Estes Park in 2013. I had a search area already established, and I already had a prior sighting there from a fisherman there. So Bigfoot was there once, it's going to be there again. So I go back to this area, do a 3-month investigation, more or less of a habituation, if you want to call it, more or less saturation. And all these years of wanting to see these forest people or Bigfoots or creatures, whatever you want to call them, I had to work on something in myself to get the sighting. 20 years before working on this, I finally get a sighting. And it's 2:13. It's in the Estes Park News. It's 9:30 in the morning. I'm about 6 miles out of Estes Park, down in Big Thompson Canyon, and I'm in an old shooting range. It's a BLM land, Bureau of Land Management land, and so I go down in there, and it was about 9:30 in the morning, and I'm walking through a field. And I did send some pictures of the first sighting, but it was 80. It's just there's so much to these stories, but to get it short, it was 9:30 in the morning, January 7th, 80 yards out. I see a little juvenile looking at me through the rocks, and he's kind of got his nose like this, and he's pointed and he's looking at me. And how I saw it was as I'm walking through the field doing what I did for the 3 months I've been there. I was trying to get this area because I know there's a sighting there, and I'm finding footprints and finding tracks and all this stuff, but I was trying to get them to get familiar with me. So after the 3 months from October into January, as I settled into the area, I think they got familiar and let me see them one day. It was the juvenile. And like I said, looking over a rock. I sent Alex a picture, but I sent Alex a lot of pictures. And the Bigfoot's a small one. And as I lift my camera up to zoom in, I could see the eye to eye to it.
Yeah.
And all these years of looking for it, I had to walk away from it. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I walking away from this sighting? And what is wrong with me? I had this feeling in me like, oh my God, I'm looking at a Bigfoot, but I couldn't accept it. And I have so much love for them and no hurt for them that I walked away, but I walked away thinking, why am I doing this? And I was somewhat in a shock. And as I'm starting my truck up and driving away, I'm thinking to myself, well, it was saying to me through the whole time, could you just go away and come back another day? It wasn't like it was talking to me, guys, in a voice. That's the feeling I got. And people say, why would you walk away? I love them so much. I don't know why I walked away. It said to me, if you walk away, you can come back another day. And I'm like, okay. But I'm in my truck and I'm driving away and I'm so upset. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I get home, my family knows I'm this big researcher. My kid says to me, you're this big Bigfoot researcher, and you walked away from it. And I just thought, yeah, I did.
Well, okay. Well, let's hang on a second, John, because okay, so you saw this juvenile. How tall was it?
It was behind
what
a
color?
rock. It was behind a rock. So when I went back, dug and looked at the rock, and David Plottis came with me one time too. We looked at the rock.
Okay.
We can measure from behind the rock.
Hold that photo, Alex. Hold that photo. Go ahead, Kenneth.
Yeah. David came with it, and as we measured it, we could figure this was over between the 4 to 5 foot in there, about 4 to 5 foot range, 5 foot range.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
Alex,
kind of explain the eyes. What did the eyes look like?
Looking in the camera, as I lifted it up and zoomed that camera all the way in, all I could say was how the eyes were so locked into me, and as I'm going through my sizzling now that I started to accept years later, that's what happened to me. He zapped me. He put this mojo type thing on me. But he said to me also, though, I gave you this, but if you come back, we're going to give you more because you know what? We just opened a door for you. And I was like, why all these years later are you doing it now? And that was my first sighting, was because they wanted to give it to me now. And I accepted that, but I couldn't accept that I was looking at it and going, Bigfoot, that's a Bigfoot. You're looking at it. There it is. But what is wrong with me? Why am I going away? I went away. First sighting. So why did he tell me to go away? I kind of went back in the area with revengeance then. I couldn't understand the first time why I walked from it. Now, Alex, did we ever find that first picture? You're going to see he's in the rock like this, and he's got his nose right in there. And I got to admit, I sent Alex a bunch of pictures.
Well, unless they're numbered, we're probably not going to be able to find them.
So we'll go on to the second one. And
so tell us about your second encounter.
And it's because that was a quick one, 80 yards out, happened fast. We're looking at it, focus in, boom, mind blast, walk away, not accepting it. All these years, bam.
But I do want to clarify one thing. You did go back to the spot where you saw it.
Yes.
Correct? And you looked and it wasn't there, obviously.
Yeah, because I've been in the spot for, 15 years? I could go back. Yeah.
But there was a footprint cast photo that you had up, Alex, the red plaid. There's only 4 toes, and yet,
that's in the area that's called the flat tops. I blasted a smorgasbord of pictures with Alex, and I thought, if anything,
you could say that.
I just thought if you bring up the picture, I'll just tell you what the picture is. We'll just have fun doing that.
Well, okay. Well, there was look for another footprint cast that was really clear, Alex. Like this one, you could say maybe the little toes just didn't get cast right. But there was one.
Sometimes, like you say, that little toe won't come down, but this one here to the left, that's that flexation in the middle there, way up top. That's really flexed.
Yeah, it looks like the mid-tarsal break.
Yeah. To the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see, this is an area in Yampa that we go, and the Steamboat Springs area. And we did an extensive study, a lot of years, almost a decade up there with a family of Bigfoots up there.
There was one photo, Alex.
I like this part.
One of the earlier ones.
Out, and I'll tell you.
So there was one track I really do want to see, Alex. It was one of the first ones you put up.
Okay.
It's a very clear track. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, we'll do that. We'll do that, Kenneth. But there was one photo I really want to look at. No, it's a track. It's a track casting.
Okay, got it.
See if you can find it first.
But that second sighting, when we get ready.
There we go.
Yeah.
That does not look like it ever had 5 toes. That's interesting.
Yeah, and we know sometimes that little pinky won't push down.
I realize that, but it must have been a lifted pinky. But
you know that better than me. You bet.
A little bit.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's an interesting track. Anyhow, okay. So the second, your second encounter. Let's go back to that.
Bigfoot telling me, the little one saying, "Come back another day. Come back today." Why is he telling me that? So I go back to the area, and when they say lightning doesn't strike twice in one area, well, it did, because I'm in an area where I have a gifting, and I'm just within close to the area where I got the sighting. I'm right up in there almost in the area, and as I'm going through the area, I jump off my gifting rock, and I hear this little scream. And as I turn my head, I have my camera in them days always ready to take a picture, because in them days I was a little bit unorthodox, so I just took pictures of everything and then went home and circled things and said, well, there was a Bigfoot, there was one. But I tell you what, when I turned around and the little scream I heard was a little one sitting over to the left over here. And as I turned, the one that I saw earlier was with the little one. And what is he doing again? He's looking around a rock at me sideways. He's staring at me. This time it's 12 o'clock noon, something like that. They're not nocturnal. All these sightings were daytime. One's 9:30 in the morning, one's in the afternoon. The beautiful color on this little one's head, which it was still, how could I tell how big it was? Because of the head. And if you go back and look around the rock, you could tell, well, he was laying down, just staring around the corner, looking at me. Has staring at me, and I'm going, oh, I just saw you not too long ago. You look so beautiful. Look at that black color on his head, how it's shining. His fur was so shiny. And all of a sudden, here comes this black one, or a red one. The red one comes behind a tree that was up on this, just above where this one was sitting down and looking around. He was on a tree. He comes bursting out of the tree line, and he takes about 3 steps, and he turns around. He turns everything around. He doesn't just go like that. He turned his whole body. And when he looked at me, he turned and he stared at me. I'm only within 3. He could have very well jumped on me within just a matter of his steps, his pounce. He could have been on top of me quick. He didn't do that. He looked at me with a look of disgust and contempt. It was like, buddy, you've been walking around this area for 3 months. You want to look at me? Here I am. And I looked at that and I thought, my God, I've seen some things in my days, but that's not a monkey. That's more human than me.
So wait,
and
were you saying this out loud, or were you thinking this
to myself as I'm looking at it, going, "Oh my God, he's going to pounce on top of
me"? Are you stunned?
Oh, I'm thinking to myself, all these years you've worked on yourself where you can't be scared. Because why you want to go out and be scared and do this? I'm getting things that where scared didn't even come to me. It was, oh my God, look at this. He looks like Kane the wrestler or the Undertaker as he walked out. And his lips were flat, didn't have no expression, had a nose like that out like this. The guys, he had a cranium sticking out. It just looked like he was a little bit sickly looking at me. And I'm just like, my God, I backed off and I looked over at the little one and I said, little one, I'm not here to hurt you guys. I don't come in with malice. And I didn't even think that he would hurt me. And then I thought, what happened to you? He's gone.
So you look away and he's gone.
Kenny, out here in this area, you've been for a lot of years. You've seen portal prints. You've seen one print and they go nowhere. Right now I need to get out of here, but I think maybe I've seen it go through something that I still haven't accepted yet. I haven't accepted the quantum physics yet of like our buddy Ron Moorhead talks about, which I know very well. Of course, very well too. So
sure.
So that at my age, then I was saying, man, you're seeing some things. How are you going to tell people about this? But I was smart enough, guys, to lift that camera up, at least when I jumped off the rock and took the picture. And I could break these pictures down sometime. We have a picture of the baby. And when we crop it into that picture, you can see this little guy. It's beautiful. It's this little, I can't explain it. But then you can see the little one around the rock. Then you can see the big red. And I took the picture as Big Red was doing this sideways. But when he turned and looked at me, I didn't worry about pictures. I was like, I just worried about, hey, this is what you want and this is what you got. And this is what we want out of this. And so that's that sighting. That's that sighting that made me almost
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
Can you put the time of day? Was this at night? Was this midday? Was this the morning?
The time of the second sighting, like I said, was at 12 noon.
It was 12 noon.
The first one was 9:30 in the morning.
So you saw him. It was bright out. You saw him clearly.
It was there. I'm not looking at a shadow. I'm not looking at it's there.
Well, you had mentioned the shiny fur or the shiny hair. And that struck you as being very shiny?
Oily. Like they have a...
Like oily, okay.
Oily, yeah. And I know that sometimes when they've touched our windows, sometimes that print stays on that window forever because of the oil in their hands. So it's
interesting. So you've seen fingerprints on windows?
Yeah, even with Jim Myers up in the Wellington Lake area. But
Mm.
you've been there, Doug, plenty of times over at Sasquatch Outpost. And over at there it is, guys. There's the first sighting, you guys. And see the little V right there as you look down there? You can see a nostrils. And, oh, I can, but a patch over his forehead, guys. I don't know. You can see the crest of his head, but if you go down, you see a patch of whiteness. I don't know if that's a patch naturally, or maybe some snow had fell out of the tree and hit him in the head. I don't know, guys. I just know it snowed the night before, about 3 inches. It left a carpet of an area of whiteness. But when he's looking, you got to look at the V right there. You see his nostril and his a nose and his eyes.
How far away at this point when you took this photo do you think you were?
80 yards, because I have when I went back, I borrowed one of those golf ball things where you can see how far they're away, your golf balls, and it was around 80 yards.
Yeah, rangefinder.
A rangefinder, yeah.
Okay, so somebody said how big was Big Red?
Big Red.
And
Big
was it
Red
male
was
or
a-
female?
Big Red, I couldn't, guys, to me, it was a male, and it was over 8 feet tall. And out of Estes Park, I ran a field center for 12 years. That's how I got the name the Bigfoot guy. I started Bigfoot days in Estes Park. And I'd get a lot of reports in that station because I had a Bigfoot wall. That corporation gave me a big wall to put my reports on. And that same year, I had a lady come in and tell me there was a hailstorm happening about the time I'm telling the story to people, because we gets out around this town. And she comes to me and says, I saw the red one. It was at my house. It had just hailed one day, and I went out to take a picture of the hail. And as I did, there's this big red one looking at me over the fence at me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's exactly what I saw. And then I had another report the same year from a preacher 1 mile away from where I saw mine, same side of the mountain. His little kid was in his bedroom. He's 10 years old. And the kid looks out the window and sees a Bigfoot crouching. And then as it stood up and turned and looked at the kid at the window, the kid said he was eating a rabbit like a donut. And I thought, that was just interesting. That little kid saw something, not making this up. Then the sister came and said, Dad, I saw it too. She told me a story about how the Bigfoot, she was doing something in the yard playing, and when she looked up, it was staring at her over a fence. And it was the same red Bigfoot. And she said it was massive, huge. And these kids are so scared. The children don't know how to tell the story. See, I get emotional now, and I'm 61. I have controlled my emotions. If you go to past interviews, I cry. But I don't do that no more. I try to tell the story, how it's happened to me. And it's not about the glorification of what I do, is education. But the children really saw something. So I try to put that all together in that time frame and say, there was something happening in this area at that time.
Well, it's interesting because, still pictures, and I told you this, they don't have a lot of value. They don't have a lot of meaning to me, because what you see in a picture of a creature really far away with, maybe not the most expensive lens in the world, is going to look very blobby. So other people won't, they won't appreciate maybe what you will, because you were there. But there's not a lot of value scientifically with stills. I have yet to see one still photo, not one, that's been out in the open like the Patterson creature. Most of them are obscured. And then if I do see them and they're really far away, they're still very blurry. Yeah. Could hide defects in the suit. So they just don't have much value unless you can get a whole bunch of consecutive still photos, and they're just the right distance. Everything's in very, Nat Geo quality still photos in consecutive order. And then before and after, so the creature's gone, then maybe there's some value there. So you should keep going, obviously. And I would imagine you're still trying to get footage, are you, or have you given up on that?
Well, see, that second sighting made me give up for a bit. And then a friend out of the another research organization in Colorado, he had an experience in the area where you see those 4 toe prints.
Right.
And we could go on with the UFO sighting, Alex, and all that stuff's in there. That picture, the blue one with the 4 dots, that's the UFO. But we go into something later. But the friend saw something in the area that made him quit this. And he was kind of my mentor, kind of like a person I looked up to a lot. And I thought,
that was the picture, Alex.
I go, well, he's quitting. And I don't want to quit doing this. But what I saw made me think with the red one that I've saw enough. And that maybe, so I get excited when you put these pictures up. There it is. Now this one, we go back, note on what I was talking about. We can go back. Now, Alex, this is, Doug, this is the one that's in the alien contact in the Rockies. And this is the one that you're in. The alien contact in the Rockies. You're in.
Okay, slow down. Alex,
we're
Alex,
getting
no
off
UFOs.
topic.
I don't want to get off topic here.
Okay,
we'll have to have you on again for that one. That
If
story.
you want to talk UFOs, we got to do that another time.
Let's do that another time. Yeah. So get me back where I was. So because you got me on UFOs.
Sorry, Ken, your energy is just
no, Alex, slow down with the slideshow.
There you go.
Well, we got so many photos to share. I'm just I want to show them all.
No.
Well,
Okay.
So we the red one and the second sighting made me want to quit. My friend saw something that made him quit. So I went back out after about a year of a kind of a stallment because I was thinking, man, look what happened to me. I want to go back all these years, and something says you gotta go back out. What had happened is a lady walked into this gas station and she was talking about seeing the Bigfoot over in the South Park area of Colorado. And her husband wouldn't believe her because it was walking up and down her driveway. So she said she went inside the house and mixed some flour and poured herself a Bigfoot print. And she told me that. And I thought, that is so cool. She goes, would you take us around? And I went, let's go back out. Let's go back out around Estes Park. Let's do it again, Kenny. You're not giving up like your friend did. And I went back out. And I'm lucky I did go back out. Because I know in Estes Park, as I walked down that town 16 years ago, there wasn't a Bigfoot nothing there. And I said to myself, I'm going to change this. I had people like David Pilates come up. I had Matt Moneymaker. We had town halls there. I did things at first to show that there was a Bigfoot in this area. And I did that with Bigfoot Days, and I proved all that. So the reason I went back was because I had all this time in this. I didn't want to give up. So what we did is we took over a little area down below Estes Park. It's a small town called Glen Haven. Now, when I get back to telling you guys in the Estes Park area, we have 12 Ridge Road right here. It goes over to Granby, and it goes over into the Flat Tops of Steamboat Springs. There's Bigfoots all over these Rocky Mountains down here. And they're also in the lower valleys. They don't have to necessarily be so high up. They're in these little low towns right below us, about 8 miles or less, called Glen Haven. We go down into an area, and we start going doing a thing in an area where it was 1930s. Was an old cabin built there, and it's just a good area to go to. Well, all of a sudden, we get a sighting there, and it's a massive Bigfoot up on a ledge, and it's looking down at my researcher friend Leah. Leah was smart enough to take a picture, and I could send those sometime, but I got to think to myself, Doug, that we'll have more time to come back and we'll share that. But this first picture of the thing looking over the edge, I said, wow, here we go again. And at one time when we were casting a picture, I got it hollering, and it did this massive roar, 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 just this massive yowl. And we were getting footprints, and I had 2 friends come from Italy, and they come for about a month to do some Bigfooting with me. They even saw it down in there. And so I had to step away from the area because the government came in. They put a fence up and says, we know what you're doing down here, and you're not going to, at least we could lock you out of here, but we can't keep you out of here. And I went, man, you guys, we won't get into that, will we? We know that's another show. Well, we don't think
No, that's another show.
well, we don't have.
We got at least 2 more shows queued up with Ken.
Yeah. So they can lock me out. Go ahead. That's fine. Well, down in the area, out of the area, I've definitely got with the BFRO certified sightings there, certified vocalizations. Everything was down in there. And I left the area for 2 years. And I came back recently in March. The reason I left the area is I went down to Nebraska to do a film. Can I say the film because it's in a trailer, but I don't want to do stuff on nobody's grapes here because I don't want to infringe any rights. But there was a film. It's in a trailer right now. It's called I'll take the rights. Don't get anybody on these guys. I'll take it. It's called Haunting in Blue Hill. It's in Nebraska. It talks about something else. But look at the trailer. It's on YouTube, so it should be okay. So the boy, I get excited because I got some stuff going on. I want to stay on track.
Yeah, did you drink a big cup of coffee before you came on?
Well,
Kenneth?
Are you caffeinated?
My energy and what I've seen out there in 30 years and all the stuff I've seen, the head has always stored it. And I never really wanted to go out and talk to people in podcasts and stuff. And when I do, I'm not structured. I don't have a way of doing things. And people think, and I do a lot of stuff with people, and I'm the researcher that's on the ground. When they're around the campfire, I'm not. I'm out there. I'm doing things, and I'm just excited and have a lot of years.
Well, let's do this. So, what do you think these creatures are?
Well,
what's your conclusion or your theory?
Well, when you asked me about, I went to Macy, Nebraska. Do you guys know Barry Webster? You know that whole story down there?
No, I don't actually.
That's interesting stuff down there. But I tried to work on the spiritual part of these things because I've seen so much eye shine with them. And I think, how can a creature have so much energy and emit eye shine? And I've seen it close to me in an area where I get those four toes. And I would talk about that alien stuff. We'll talk about that later. But I see a lot of eye shine with these things. And I think they emit a lot of energy. And I think that maybe when I was in Macy, Nebraska with Barry and the tribal elders just last July, they have a Bigfoot on the reservation called Chatonga, and we go out and we pray, and they come out, and this one Chatonga has some massive eye shine, and I sent you guys pictures of, you can see his two eyes, and that's the eye shine. But when the tribal elders and me took me to this area to get to Chatonga, I went walking towards it, and I'm looking at this eye shine and this massive thing that I'm thinking to myself, am I looking at the spirit of Sasquatch? Am I looking at all this energy, and just the tribals were just like saying to me that Chatonga would never walk to people, but why is he walking to you, Kenny? And I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, but this is the eye shine of the little ones up in the area where I get the four toes at, and they're always around my truck and doing their antics. But this is
okay. Well, let me interject a question, Kenneth.
Sure.
Is there any other light? Is there a flashlight? Is this pitch black?
Behind me is a little bitty lamp about 5 inches, and it's hanging up in a corner, way up in the corner behind.
Corner of what?
Of my tent. I'm inside.
Oh, okay, your tent.
Looking out through the bug screen.
So this is looking out through the bug screen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
After I played a lullaby, I have a video of it, and I'm sitting in a tent playing this old musical toy. And I'm cranking it, and I'm thinking to myself, they don't ever hear nothing like this. They live in a world of roughness. Let's play them a little, besides the drums, banging on trees, play a little music like
this. That's what
what
Alex would do.
And then you go out, and I could hear them scuffling. I went out and just opened my flap and look, and there they are, just scuffling around, looking at me. One's hiding behind the other, and they're illuminating this eye shine.
Yeah.
Hey, Dad, how are we doing on time? We got Max in the back room.
No, it's 8:27. We got a few more minutes with Kenneth, and this is just kind of
perfect.
It's Kenneth
Yeah,
Collins.
whatever.
It's a Bigfoot cram session with Kenneth.
It's like you
I
want
love
to tell
it.
12 stories at once.
I
Yeah,
can't too. I love it.
yeah, well, it's like dropping down a mine shaft. Anyhow, so what did you do? You see this eye shine. Let's take a story to the end. Are you afraid?
No, guys, between me and another guy in this area, I bet you he's had at least 400 interactions with them. His name is Jason Frank.
Well, I don't
And
care about Jason.
I probably had about 100 with these things up in this area. From
Okay.
poking,
Just 100.
just poking, the vocalizations, the them coming around the tent, playing with our water bottles, or playing with the pedals on our bikes. I mean, just, not 100 sightings, but in the sightings, it ranged at least a dozen. And then with the interactions, I could say 100. And we're talking, vocalizations back. We're talking being poked and probbed. I've been kicked. I was on a 3-day excursion in July in the flat tops, 3 days by myself. Seems like on the third day up in this area, they like to come out and play with your tents in your area. One time after a tremendous rainstorm, I had one come by, and actually, because I'm rolled in my tent trying to get away from the lightning, it walks by my tent and it just gives me a kick. And I roll in my tent like a little Tootsie Roll, just thinking, well, this is how you're going to get in Dave Pilates' book, because all he has to do is haul me off. But they walk off, and then in the morning,
So wait, you're ready to disappear forever, and you're just thinking, I'm going to end up in one of his books.
I'm thinking, this is how they go missing. I'm out here in this tremendous biblical rainstorm, and he could pick me up, because walk me off. Who heck's gonna know?
I think Bigfoot would have brought you back.
That's what Jim Myers says. Because when we do, when we do things, he doesn't give me very many people, but
yeah, I think he would have been brought back promptly.
Well, if you could tone me down, guys, and just do a smorgasbord picture thing, I'd like that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's go back to this. Let's go back to this eye shine. So you're in the tent. There's a little lamp. You're seeing this. What is this thing doing? And when does
noise? They make a noise. You want to hear the noise? Is the kind it makes like a horse when it goes like that.
Okay, whoa! That's important.
Yeah.
So you were hearing like a purr.
Yeah, I have it recorded. It sounds like when a horse when they batter, they go like that.
Okay, that's important. Do you have that recorded?
Yeah, and maybe they're doing something through their nose.
Because me and David Ellis are doing a little research, because we're trying to figure out what the sound is.
I know David Good. I know David Good and his number. I can send him that.
Okay, you need to get David Ellis that recording. So
you're talking to one that probably knows all of them. If you say Kenneth Collins, they're going to have the same reaction you got, Doug.
Right.
They're going to be like, Kenny, oh, God, that guy's.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have to figure out a way to control Kenneth next time. And we have to tell him we cannot get 30 years of research done in 40 minutes. Yeah, no, it's impossible. But anyhow, I am enjoying you, Ken, big time. This is great. But what I like to get into details, because that's where the magic happens, is down into the details. So, what did that thing do? It's glowing its eyes. Did it just walk away and quit?
No, they do their little thing, skirmishing around.
Okay.
And I try not to discourage them. I just let them let them play it all out, and I just sit and try to watch. Now, that people think, I want to click more cameras on, I want to get more out of it. Well, in that situation, in that moment, trying to be is not so it's quiet, and I'm not trying to disturb them. I want them to interact and complete it. Yeah.
I gotcha. Very interesting. Well, we'll get you back, Kenneth, and we'll get your pictures, some of your pictures numbered.
Yeah.
So they can just call out a number and bam, there it'll be.
Well, thanks for having me.
But we definitely got to get that recording to David. But it was a real pleasure, Kenneth. You're
Yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
my
You
emotions,
made
guys.
my whole day. You made my
Right.
whole
Oh,
day.
hey, that's okay.
You made my whole day. And
Thanks, guys.
and Alex is going to send you a box of donuts.
Yeah, there you go. I work for
Yeah,
Squatchy Donuts.
in the mail.
All
There
right.
you go.
Thanks,
Okay.
Kenneth.
Thanks,
guys.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay, next we have
The champion.
Max Hawthorne with an
Yes.
E. With
With
an
an
E.
E. With an E.
I don't know what the difference is, but why does some Hawthorns have no E? And then some do.
Only the good ones have E's.
So Max, he's an American author, screenwriter. He's been referred to as the Prince of Paleo Fiction. Right?
The Prince. I hereby dub him the king of paleo fiction.
Yeah. I mean, his books are amazing. He's best known for his work with writing Kronos Rising series. It's a sci-fi suspense thriller. And it says here, which is so Book of the Year in People Choice Awards. He's an Amazon #1 best-selling author. And Alex is going to throw up some of his books. Can you do a close-up of like Kronos Rising?
Yeah.
His covers are amazing.
Oh,
So Max was born in Brooklyn. He attended school in Philadelphia, graduated from the University of Arts. In addition to being a best-selling novelist, he's also a singer-songwriter, avocational paleontologist, cryptid researcher, and he also holds an IGFA world record. And that's where I'm jealous because that's kind of tough to do.
he's making us look bad.
Yeah, I'd say.
Slow down.
Anyhow, so Max, are you there? Come on in.
I am here. Thank you. I am at the tail end of a very nasty cold, so if I have to mute or step off screen for a second.
No, we get it.
We get
You were
it.
nice enough to come on,
Yes.
so we're
Instead of canceling.
we're happy.
Thank you.
So I could talk to you about. We haven't even we've had a few conversations, but we have never talked about fishing. That's like my passion.
It's a passion of mine. Unfortunately, my dad passed away a couple of years ago, and my brother I usually fish with him got married, and hence he's not really allowed out much. So, it's hard to find fishing buddies these days and stuff. By the way, about the books, I sent you guys a couple of covers. Is there any way you can pull one of them up, or you didn't get them in time?
I didn't get them in because we had a crazy day. We were gone out of the office all day.
Well, you see that book, Diablo? No, wait, that's not that one. The one with the glowing red eyes.
And that's a prequel, isn't it, Diablo?
Yes,
one?
that one right there.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can click on that bad boy. So maybe you go on the books page. Actually, there's a larger image. I see you're on the site.
Is this good?
That's good. Yeah. So what I did was just for your audience. Okay.
Yes.
I could only do it from now until Friday at midnight Pacific time on the 12th. I'm sorry, but anybody that listens to or watches your show that goes on Amazon and looks up Kronos Rising Diablo can get the ebook free. I mean, just
cool.
go on there, look up right now, even Kronos Rising Diablo, and you can download it for free, and you can read it on anything, even your cell phone.
Oh, cool.
Which is what I do all the time, by the way. So I set this up just for your people, so I couldn't cover a whole week's worth, but for the next 3 days, you guys got free copies of that book.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And by the way, that was actually Authors DB called that one of 2016's top 10 books, and I almost won their first lines contest with that. I got the silver instead of the gold. That's like where they look at the opening paragraph and they weigh it in terms of how much impact it has, that type of thing, to draw you into the story and stuff. But still, silver's better than a poke in the eye,
Oh, yeah.
So,
And if people have no idea what it takes to have a bestseller on Amazon, that's a big deal. That's not easy.
it's true.
I mean, you have to sell a lot of books.
No, to climb that mountain with so many millions of books too. To make
It's like
a
that guy in
dent
Greek
like that.
mythology who's like pushing that boulder up the hill, you know, in hell, and then he almost
Yes.
gets to the top and it rolls back down. Then he has to start over again and over again. That's how it is, book after book after book. But it's, you know, I have a lot of great fans, and it's really breathing life into something like a whole universe like that. It's like having a child, you know, an amazing child, and I'm lucky to have one of those too.
So, do we have another book coming in the Chronos series?
Oh yeah, but a lot of people thought that the last book, which was, gosh, do I have a copy of it here? I know I owed somebody I don't usually have physical books in the house. Somewhere in here, there's a copy of it, but my desk is a disaster. It's like Einstein's. The last book was Cronus Rising Purgatory, and for some reason, people just assumed that was going to be the last book in the series. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Which it was not. I have like the capacity to do a dozen more. So it's just a matter of me finding the time and, you know, doing it. I juggle a lot of projects at the same time, as you know.
So what does Cronus mean? Is that a Greek name?
Well, Cronus in Greek mythology, which was also in Roman mythology, I believe that's Saturn, if I'm not mistaken. But Cronus was the king of the Titans who ruled Olympus before the gods of Olympus.
Okay.
And his name means like god of time. So the primeval protagonist, as I like to call it in the novels, if you pull up the cover of book 1, you'll see the monster's face on there. But it's a species of giant marine reptile called a pliosaur. In this case, a species of Chronosaurus, which means god of time reptile. And I evolved my own species for the book based on some fossil finds. And let me tell you, I mean, the whole concept of the first book was based upon what would happen if the ultimate marine predator suddenly reappeared in modern oceans where, yeah, that handsome rascal right there, where you have like, I mean, our whales are 90% depleted. Our sharks, some of them, I mean, you know how it is with shark finning, millions are killed. So you would have nothing to keep this predator in check if it started to breed and multiply. Nothing that could deal with an adult even. I mean, this thing would eat a megalodon shark. I mean, literally bite it in half and eat the halves. I mean, that's just the way it would go. The adults, based on the fossils from that one from Mexico, you would figure the biggest ones out there were at least 25 or 27 meters long and massive. I mean, massive. Like your previous guest was using that word massive a lot. Well, you know, massive, massive jaws, massive teeth, and the most powerful bite force in history. But anyway, but that's how the story evolved around that whole concept and trying to create it in such a way that was unheard of or new for people, that was believable, et cetera. And, you know, it was a big hit and I was quite pleased with it. And, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, you can see what Publishers Weekly said up top.
Well, when you went and wrote this book, did you have any idea it would be such a big hit?
I went through a lot of trials and tribulations with the first book because when you're a neophyte, a newbie, you know, they always say that the, what do you call it? By the way, am I supposed to, Max, with those shades, looks like Kronos Mafia reader. Thank you, Harry Lynn. And I used to live in Brooklyn, as you probably know. So, you know, I have a little familiarity with these guys. But anyway, forget about it. But what was I talking about? See, this is like the medicine kicking
when
in
you're a
now.
new author.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So usually they say like anybody's first novel sucks. You know, I mean, like, what was it Hemingway say? The first draft of everything is SH blank T. I know you don't like bad language on the show, so I'm not going to use it. But for when you write your first novel, it's typically bad. I went through multiple renditions of the first novel. See, so it ended up being good because I had a lot of help. I mean, first I had my dad and several friends that went through it and, quote, edited and made constructive criticism stuff. But then I had a couple of professionals to help me. Chris Parker, who's a great screenwriter out in California, you know, he went through it and he was like, well, if I was writing the story, what I would do is, and I was sitting there with taking notes and, you know, all this stuff and stuff like that. And then I like rewrote like a whole huge percentage of it. I thought it was already. And then another friend of mine who knew him, his cousin was married to, what's his name? David Goodman, who used to be the executive producer of The Family Guy. So I was privileged to be able to communicate with him back and forth. Boy, he tore me a new one. I still have emails from him that were like a mile long, criticizing stuff, and it was like you're like writhing in pain, like no more, no more, no more, and you're like, I got to write this thing again, and it's almost 200,000 words. It's not a full rewrite. It's more like you're removing scenes, tweaking, changing, revamping, this type of stuff. But it took a while. So when it finally came out, yeah.
How long did it take you? How long did it take you, man?
The first time,
the first book.
Yeah, the first draft was a year, but only 9 months of that was writing. I had like some surgery and stuff, so I was out of it for about 3 months. So I would say 9 months, and then it probably was rewritten, revamped several times. Probably another 6 or 8 months of writing on top of that. So it was a lot of work. I'm a lot faster now. I mean, now I crank out 2,000 words a day when I'm in the zone, fully edited.
Wow.
For a second, I thought I lost you guys because I saw just me.
No.
I was like, wait, am I hosting the show now? Nobody told me this.
You're the star.
And my daughter's mug. She's not here to pummel me.
I want to know, how do you discipline yourself?
Well, I have like a whip, and I just reach back, and I'm confused. What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is, it's very easy when you're either a writer, you're writing a script or a movie or a book, to just go, nah, I'm not going to do it today. I'm not going to do it today.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Well, I never have a lack of creativity. My problem is a lack of sleep. And sleep affects your creative process as well as your energy levels. So where there's a whip, there's a way. That was from the original Hobbit movie, I think, or Lord of the Rings, one of those, the animated ones. Remember? Yeah. They had a song where there's a whip, there's a way, with the orcs being driven to battle and stuff like that. I remember I saw it when I was a kid. But anyway, it's like for me, I guess it's just getting started. Like that when you go into a new book, it's that very first step. And I sit there and I'm like, and I'm like, I haven't written in like 6 months or something like that. Have I forgotten how to write is the first thing. I'm very paranoid about whose books I will read, other authors, because I have this phobia that if I read crap, it's contagious, because I'm like a chameleon. I absorb what's around me. See? So like when I read great writers, I'm always like absorbing some of their little nuances and things like that. That's how you get great. I mean, if anything, if you're a boxer, you train with great trainers, that type of stuff. But if I read garbage, I'm afraid I'm gonna catch it and it's gonna like stick to me or something like that. I'm weird like that. So yeah, no, it's true. But once I get started, once I get into that first page or two, then it just takes over, and then you're like, because it's like you're in this adventure, and you can see it and hear it and smell it, and maybe the fact that I used to be an artist. I mean, believe it or not, I used to be an animator. I was a cartoonist, drawing animation and stuff. That was my degree in college, film and animation. So I could draw, paint, sculpt, you name it, I've done it. I mean, everything. But now I take that vision and I put it into words. And that's how it goes. So like when you're creating this world, I mean, it's like, it just, when you breathe life into a scene, into a character, into emotions, when people read it. And, I mean, I've been very flattered because people have told me, your books are big and so well written, but they're so easy to read, because the secret is how you write the scenes. Each word, each sentence, each paragraph, each scene, it carries the person along for the ride. So they don't have to like struggle with the reading. It just flows. And when you can do that, people just don't want to put your book down. Put that together with a gripping story, and it's like, nobody wants to read a textbook. Like in college, I remember like I had to do molecular biology, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die in this class. I mean, it was like the most boring stuff for me. Okay. But when you're doing something where you're creating life and the scene, and people can just be swept away with that, it's like they're watching a movie instead of reading a book. And even though it's happening in their head, and everybody sees it a little bit differently, they can really see it. It's very rewarding.
So let me ask you a question, because you've been writing a good while, and you said it yourself, your first book, it took forever. Now you can, you can get to work, right? And kind of almost like where you're going, how you're going to do it. What for you was the biggest lesson you had to learn as a writer, or the biggest thing you personally had to work on that you've picked up from your mentors and reading other authors and studying writing?
Well, one of the first things is you can't get too attached to things. Like when Cronus Rising was first written, the very first draft, there was too much going on. There were too many plot lines that were running on at the same time. It was overwhelming. It was like you were trying to tell the whole, like a trilogy in one story.
Kind of like our last guest. Kenneth.
Too much going on.
Kenneth, I hope you heard that. Yeah, you're kind of like Kenneth. Too much going on all at once.
Exactly. So some of that had to be removed. And at first you're like, or like it's kind of like what Chris Parker told me. He goes, that whole first scene's got to go. He goes, you're giving away the store. People are going to know everything. What's the point of reading the book? And I'm like, "Urgh." And he's like, I know. It feels like you're murdering your child. I understand. But for the good of the story, you can't do that. Okay. But so initially there was a prologue, not the prequel, a prologue in the story. Actually, the prequel was in the story too, come to think of it. That's how big it was. But where I had this whole Cretaceous scene 65, 66 million years ago that explained how these monsters got caught up and imprisoned in this island, lake, and all this stuff like that until the present. And like it was giving away the store. But I wanted to keep it because it was the whole key, like we call it the fishbowl story of how something like that could be alive in the present. And by the way, for everybody that downloads Cronus Rising and Diablo, you're going to get to see the fishbowl firsthand, prehistoric island monsters in there and everything like that. So, so what I did was I decided, you know what? He's right. I can't have it there. I was like, but I can tell it later. And so what I did was I took the Cretaceous flashback scenes, and everybody loves those. Everybody likes seeing things from the view of a dinosaur and a glimpse into the primeval past, see? So I waited till way late in the story, like towards the last, like 15% of the book. And then the hero, Jake Braddock, is talking to Amara Takagi, his co-protagonist or whatever. And he's like, but how could this creature be alive today? And she goes, I have a theory on that. And then that let me slip into the Cretaceous stuff, but I broke it up over multiple chapters, a couple pages to tell the story, to time it so that when you knew everything, you already knew everything in the extant story, in the modern version. See? So it works out great.
So would you say you got a lot better at exposition?
I mean, yeah. Well, you never want to do an info dump on people. Like you can always tell, like that's bad with a writer. Like if somebody starts writing and says, he's 6'4", 265 pounds with black hair and a long scar over his right eye and this and that, that's like telling. You don't tell, you show. You know, how do you show somebody is 6'4"? How do you show somebody has a scar? You make it part of the story. And this way, people don't realize that you're telling them information. They absorb it as if they were seeing it themselves, which they like. It's more rewarding. See, if you just like blah, 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 after all, you're like, who cares? Get out of here. I'm going to read this crap. You know, there's a million authors out there. So you want to, you got to give them your best, honestly, because they can read anybody's books. So if they're going to read yours, you have to earn that trust, that confidence, that loyalty.
Well, one thing that's interesting about your work is don't you take a lot of inspiration from like stuff like actual cryptozoology research and like
well, I mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, because you weren't finished, and I want to know all of it.
No.
Answer. I don't want to come off half cocked.
No. But like, we titled the show "Giant Shark Evidence."
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we're going to get into that. We haven't, we're getting background.
So the question meaning like, does my research contribute to the writing is what you're saying?
Yeah. As far as inspiration for your stories, characters, events, creatures.
Well, artists and authors are known to draw from personal experience. So there are many things in my books that are drawn from personal experience. There may be, for example, I have a 19th century inkwell sitting on my desk, French inkwell, and that's there to juxtapose the modern computer to show how writing has changed in the last 100 years.
Evolved.
Okay. Yes. So and that's a reminder to me where we've come from. But in the story, like one of my characters, a villain, has one that's like from Louis the 14th or something like that. I couldn't afford that, but that's an inspiration to add that little effect for that scene. It could be a pet I've had. It could have been a scene I said. There's actually in Cronus Rising Kraken Volume 1, I think, there's a scene where a guy, that one of the heroes is being threatened by some like mercenary, mass murderer, serial killer type or whatever. And he's like, you don't know who you're messing with, this and that. And the hero says, what are you going to do? Change your tampon in front of me? And that's like a really like humiliating and emasculating thing to say to somebody. And I've actually said that to somebody. See, so that's drawing from real life experience. But I mean, I grew up with a dad who was a rock hound. I was surrounded by fossils and minerals and stuff as a child. And then I had my prehistoric scenes model kits when I was like 5, 6 years old, and then I was watching Star Trek and all sorts of cartoons like Moby Dick and Ray Harryhausen movies and all this other stuff. And so it just all kind of comes together. And when I was doing like research for Cronus Rising, I started doing some cryptid research because there's several references in there. Like I think it's the U-571 World War I story where a submarine torpedoed a British steamer, and when it sank, it apparently had munitions and it exploded and it threw up what sounded like a 60-foot mosasaur into the air, supposedly. So I had to research some stuff, so some of that got into it. And the more I read and the more people I met and the more fans I acquired, you start doing more and more and more and more. I've had a few cryptid experiences of my own. But, so that loans itself to a story too. And of course, it always helps.
We're going to get you, Max, we got to get you back for your cryptid stories in the future.
Yeah, but correct? I mean, if you have experiences like, for example, like fear. Let's talk about fear for a second, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, or pain, okay? I have suffered injuries in the past where it was so agonizing that literally everything turned red. Like I was seeing the world through a red piece of film. That much pain, okay? And I've used that multiple times in stories. Or fear, where you're so terrified of something, that it's just like it's overwhelming. I mean, I've had experiences. I had experience in a cemetery with something, which we're not going to talk about right now. I had experience in college where I came face to face with this freshman who had hung himself in the dorms 2 days earlier. And I came face to face with him in the dark. And that was not a pleasant day, let me tell you. And all these different things that come together. So you learn what fear is, what pain is, what anything. And then you're able to better portray that to your readers so they can feel what you feel.
So do you feel like your best? No. It almost feels like. Do you almost feel like your best work is almost like taking your life and you put it in a blender? You hone everything that you like you said you've experienced, your inspirations, your interests, the stuff you've researched, and you somehow focus that into a book.
Well, we are all the sum total of our experiences, right? So I just happen to be lucky enough to have had a lot of experiences. I mean, like a lot. So everything and anything, including, and by the way, I've released 2 world record sharks that I could have had the records for to this day, but I refused to kill the fish. And that included a nerd shark down in Florida and off Montauk, a blue shark that weighed well over 700 pounds that would still be the world.
Wow.
But, I'm not into, it's not about the glory, just the privilege of being able to see that 12-foot monster looking up at me and like and stuff like that was all I mean, he hurt my back too, by the way. I was in a lot of pain. But anyway, so yeah, there we have it.
Well, let's switch gears and talk about your interest in sharks, because you did mention you caught sharks. And obviously I've done Monster Quest on the, like Megalodon, the possibility of an existence of these things. Obviously there's been some confusion by some witnesses by, the, what's the name of the shark? I can't think of it. My mind went blank.
Basking shark?
Yeah, no.
Whale shark?
Whale shark. They get, they would get confused from the surface. But you're obviously interested in maybe the possibility that megalodon is still swimming in the ocean, and you may have evidence or may have witnessed evidence that you feel could be attributed to either a really massive great white or a megalodon. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, Rex hand. Red glasses will do that. I'm sorry, Rex. I have to hide the bloodshot eyes and or my vertical pupil so people don't know what I really am. You know how it is. But anyway, when I was writing the one cryptid book I did called Monsters and Marine Mysteries, I did an entire chapter that was devoted to mega sharks and the question of what are these huge fish? What are people seeing? Is it megalodon? Is it a relative of megalodon? Is it something completely unknown? What exactly is going on here?
Yep.
And in the book, sorry about that. I think there was 4 or 5 mega sharks that I went through, and I collected evidence for each of these. The smallest one I think was called the Beast of Briar Island, and I don't think there's photos of that in the documentary that I did recently, but that was bites that were taken out of a 52-foot humpback carcass that washed ashore on Briar Island. This is Nova Scotia, if I'm not mistaken. And Jess Tudor and his wife Amy had filmed it and taken pictures, etc. And they knew me and knew of my passion for this stuff, etc. And Jess measured some of the bites on there on video, and he had a couple of bites that were 27 inches wide, and one was 31, and the other was like 36 or 37 inches high. Both were from the same shark. They were literally one on top of the other, which meant the larger bite meant the shark just went full gape, maximum extension, we'll call it, of the jaws. But and that was a monstrous white shark. I mean, according to the most conservative elasmobranchiologist formula available, and we always want to be conservative so people can't accuse you of exaggerating, that suggested a great white 26 feet long, which is bigger than Bruce from Jaws. So right away now you've got a big fish. Okay?
What is the record right now for the biggest one documented?
Oh gosh, there's it's disputed 20 feet, 23 feet is like considered possible, but there are bigger ones out there. I mean, that bite did not just like magically appear on that dead whale. Okay, then there was another one that gosh, I should have brought up the notes and stuff, but there was one in I called it the Perth Canyon Colossus, and this was one that Discovery had done a special on called Super Predator, like in the kill zone, 30-foot white shark in the kill zone or something like that. And there was a pygmy blue whale photographed by Kurt Jenner of the whale research facility out there in Australia, and this was like a 69 or 70-foot whale that had this big peduncle chunk taken out of it, like a scar with tooth grooves and all this stuff. So I analyzed that, and I realized that, to me, that wound had not enlarged as the whale had aged, but it had flattened out, meaning that initially the bite was like, let's say, shaped like a semicircle, and because it's on top of the whale's flukes where it's constantly moving up and down, as the whale grew, the depth of the bite stayed the same, but it got stretched, elongated, so it looked bigger than it was. But it still suggested a white shark between 26 and 30 feet in length. And then they kept going from there. And the biggest one was Simon Pierce, the marine biologist. He, if you are able to pull up the, did you get any clips or shots from the video? Because the whale shark with the bite on it is in there. No? Oh.
Clips?
I sent you you guys the link to the documentary.
Yeah, I've been gone out of the office the entire day, and I was on the road, and so we can find it though. Just tell Alex where to find it, and we'll get it up.
Sure. If you go to my YouTube channel, which is, I'm always changing the names on these things. Can you imagine? Supernatural Survivor.
With Max Hawthorne.
There you go. And it's the very first one. It's the Mega Shark or Megalodon. If you scroll through that, you'll be able to see like a color photo of a whale shark with a diver swimming with it. Oh, you don't want to do that. That thing's like 20 or 25 minutes long, something like that, or But
you said there's a part
back,
in this.
back a little, back. Wait, yep, you had it. Go forward, more. More. No, wait. I'm not sure if it's right. Right there. All right, that's one. So now that's Simon Pierce took this photo, and this is a 40-foot whale shark, as you can see. Yeah. That's a big whale shark right there, the size of a bus. Yeah. And you see that bite taken out of its flank right there? That's a shark bite. Okay, 48 inches across.
Wow.
So the shark that did that was as big as that whale shark, in my opinion. Okay, and people will say, "Oh no, the bite, it grew. It was bitten when it was smaller, and the bite grew." It doesn't work like that. Okay, on my website, maxhawthorne.com, you look up whale sharks and stuff, and you'll see whale sharks regenerate like Wolverine, practically. Like, in a bite, chunk taken out, a year and a half later is gone. I mean, gone. Okay, filled in, smoothed out, almost unnoticeable. That's how well they regenerate. And that bite, when I looked at close-ups, there's another shot of it in there if you want to go a tiny bit further, maybe. I'm still thinking, if you can see, maybe it might be. Yeah, there's another one. Now, the diver's closer to us, so you can see that, he looks bigger, obviously. But you can see there's individual tooth grooves sliced in there that are healed. So that bite might be 6 months old, 12 months at most, okay? It's not something that happened. And bites don't magically stretch and keep the same shape and magically keep, and the tooth grooves magically enlarge with it. It's not like a Xerox machine where you hit 50% bigger and it grows. It doesn't work like that, okay? I mean, that's not how healing works, period, with these things. But anyway, so the point is to me, that overwhelmingly suggests a monstrous shark. So the question became, what is it? Now, after this all happened, after Monsters and Marine Mysteries came out and all, and that was that #1 bestseller, by the way, on Amazon, I had several people reach out to me with evidence of more mega sharks. And if I decided to do another book, I guess I'd have enough for a chapter on that. But so the one that the documentary is about is what you were just looking at. That whole documentary is from this past July. And there is a... if you go, I'm not sure where to go from here on there. Scroll back a little bit, maybe. Let's see. Okay, you can go a little more. Oh, stop right there. There you go. Okay, so right there, that is a bite taken out of this 30-foot humpback whale near the tail region. And you can tell it's a bite because if you look at the bottom left, right where it meets like your, near the cursor line or whatever you want to call that, you can see those triangles there. Those are from tooth scores, okay? And so this was a huge hunk taken out of this 30-foot, a subadult humpback. The humpback was actually wounded. And if people want to go on my YouTube channel and watch, Supernatural Survivor and watch this, whole video, you can see it. I mean, there's no charge for it or anything like that, but, and you'll see the whole thing from start to finish. So there were 2 bites on this whale that we were able to see that were that size. And a yard or more across, I mean, like, giant bites. Now, not as big as the Galapagos giant bite, but still, this equated to a white shark, it looks like, that was at least 32 feet long. And by the way, you've seen those weird cut marks on there. Like there's one on the left that looks like a sort of like a shoebox it's missing. And then there's a big square taken out of the center of the bite. You see that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So somebody got a hold of the carcass while it was still at sea before it made landfall, and they took samples. And I mentioned this in the thing. I was trying to figure out, I mean, the one on the left, they must have had tooth punctures there, and they wanted to use that to try and figure out how big the attacker was. The one in the center, maybe there were tooth grooves cut in the flesh, or they were hoping to get a DNA sample. I don't know. That's just a personal theory. Wow. But somebody took big samples out of the bite while the carcass was still at sea. But
in a bite mark's like a fingerprint. It's it really is pretty diehard proof. There's some pretty big predators out there.
Yeah, so I mean, if you go further down in the video, you'll see like there's some comparison images to show like estimates of how big it is and stuff. The shark, you got to go way, I think, a lot further down. Let me see. That's past. Go past that. Way past that. Let's see. Keep going. This is like speed. Oh, that was a nice bite shot back there. Let's see here. Keep going. All right, I'll stop there. So the theory is And I like Discovery had actually put this out themselves, mentioned it in that documentary I was talking about, that a lot of marine biologists go further back, please. Where you see like a couple great whites right there. That's perfect. Okay. So if that's like a 20-foot great white on the left, this is what the one that did this would look like approximately in terms of size. And they theorize, and I ascribe to this, that sometimes great whites suffer from gigantism, where the shark does not stop growing. And this has happened. I addressed this in Monsters and Marine Mysteries with some of the shark evidence there. I've caught animals that were twice as big as they're supposed to be able to get in the past. American toads sometimes have gigantism. So why wouldn't a shark, a fish that has what's called indeterminate growth, they continue to grow happy slowly their whole lives. If that grows back,
say, Max, is it possible that this gigantism is caused by a female that's just never bred, and she is just?
It could be either. I mean, because gigantism. Look at people. We have male giants. We have female giants. But our bodies aren't capable of functioning well when we're 8 or 9 feet tall.
I don't know if sharks have thyroid problems, but it's possible.
Yeah, but at least we know, like genetically speaking, that there have been 50-foot predatory sharks in the past. So the body design can sustain itself at extreme sizes.
Yeah.
See?
Yep. Right.
And the gigantism thing, and I mentioned this in the documentary, the argument holds because normally, if you're going to have a breeding population, like let's say, for example, forget Megalodon at this point, but let's just say that, and here, you can see this tooth right here?
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Now this is probably a number 3 upper. I'm going to say upper right, actually, from Otodus chubutensis, which was a relative of the Megalodon shark. And actually, Megalodon is believed to have split off from this species and became a separate species. So this critter has teeth that are similar to a great white. They're very triangular and very pointy. As opposed to if we look at a Megalodon tooth, it's more chisel shaped. See, it has a different design. So this is more for bone crushing, and this is more for slicing flesh.
So do you speculate that there could be Megalodons surviving?
I don't think so. The tooth punctures, like the grooves on there, are very pointed, and it suggests something like a huge white shark or this. But the thing is that, and these got to be 40 feet long, which coincidentally is about the size of the shark that attacked the Galapagos giant, based on the evidence. But the thing is, if we had a breeding population of these swimming around, you would need at least 500 animals. And if there were 500 40-foot sharks swimming around, people would be seeing them.
Yeah.
And you'd have a lot. You'd have attacks on small boats, a lot of other stuff like that, most likely. So, but if you have a great white that has gigantism, and it's maybe afflicts 1 in 1,000 or something like that, that animal is not going to be all over the place, see, and it's not going to breed. It can't, because think about this. When sharks mate, do you guys know how white sharks mate?
Not exactly, but sort of. Yeah, I mean, they have.
It's a little rough. So the male comes up, and he's usually about 80% the size of the female, and he grabs her by like the gills. Okay, and he tries to force her down the seabed into a submissive position so that they can copulate, and they inflict wounds. That's why females, especially, really regenerate fast, because those gill plates can be, ripped apart. If you Google like white shark bites, mating bites, you'll see some horrendous wounds. I mean, you're like, oh my God, how's this thing still alive? Yet in a year or two, that bite is gone. See, again, regeneration. It doesn't stay and heal like that and get bigger with the shark. Okay, so let's say that a male white shark, as big as they get, maybe he's 17 or 18 feet long for a male, comes up to a 40-foot female, or even the 32-footer that killed that whale, that small humpback. Okay, do you think a 17-foot male white shark is going to be able to grapple a 32-foot female and push her to the seabed?
Jeez.
No, she's going to be 7 times his weight, and he's going to get eaten.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guarantee you, if a 30-foot male white shark approaches a 18 or 20-foot female, she's going to take one look and she's going to get out of Dodge. She's going to be like, no, because his bite would kill her. See? So they couldn't mate, and they couldn't keep passing on those genes for gigantism, it looks like. But they could pop up every once in a while in the food chain. Take a huge bite out of a whale. Take a huge bite out of a whale shark, as you just saw. That's a pretty big bite on that whale shark, you got to admit.
Yeah.
You know? So,
well, it's always been my theory that certain females never breed, and they just keep growing. It's the breeding that ends up killing them, destroys their mortality. And so I would imagine, I almost proved that's what's going on with squid. The giant squid, the ones that are documented are ones that just have never bred. They become cannibals. They never migrate up and down the water column. They just stay at the bottom and keep growing.
Should I address like some of the questions and stuff in the comment section, or?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, jump in.
Yes. I saw John said works out better for the shark than the praying mantis. That is true. And let me tell you, as a young kid, I saw that happen firsthand to my pet praying mantis with a female, and it was horrible. Oh my God. I was traumatized for like months. I was like 6 years old. My poor male mantis had his whole head eaten off and all this stuff. Awful. But yeah. So, fortunately the male does, it's like cats. If you've ever seen cats mate, lions, etc., the male grabs the female by the nape and he pulls up on that. And by the way, people don't know this. That's the kitten reflex take over. Like when the mother picks up the kitten by the scruff, they automatically go limp so that they don't get injured, when she's carrying them by their neck. So when a male cat does it to a female cat, he's trying to make her act like a kitten, where the mother pulls her up by the neck and she goes limp so he can, procreate.
Yeah.
Copulate. I'm keeping it rated G here. Goliath groupers finding the trap. But yes, I have caught some of those. I had a 600-pounder lost right by the boat one time. Scary as anything.
So what's your theory on the biggest shark that could exist, great white?
I think that there is probably something out there in the 40-foot range.
Okay.
So if it's still alive. I mean, the Galapagos attack or that wound was seen in 2017, so 6 years ago. But the stuff on that shark the shark bite that I documented on that film we put together, that was just this past July. So there are, and that's not the same animal that attacked that whale shark. So
how big was the shark in Jaws?
25 feet in the movie. In the book,
in the
20
movie.
feet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that gives you an idea, Alex. 40 foot. Oh
yeah.
My God.
I did some weight estimates on that. I'm trying to do it in my head right now. So I think a 40-foot shark based on a 20-foot female great white weighing 4,000 to 5,000 pounds. If we go up to the upper end of that 5,000 as a reference point, would be about 40,000 pounds or 20 tons for a 40-foot white shark.
That's crazy. Yeah. I would imagine there's exponential weight. Mm-hmm. The bigger they are, the way bigger they are. Is that true? Because
they get bulkier. They do.
Yeah, they get bulkier.
And they get bulkier and they get slower. That's the thing.
Gosh.
Like if you see like the fastest white sharks are probably like 9 or 10 feet long. Then there's speed demons like a mako before they start getting, the thickness kicks in, all that thickness they like, what I'm saying? Them big girl sharks, all that thickness and stuff. Anyway, sorry, I'm on medicine, so you have to excuse that. I've been taking that.
And what type of medicine are you on, Max?
It's Mucinex.
We'd all like to know.
No, Mucinex Fast Max. It had Max on it, so I was like, "This is for me. This has got my name on it." So it's making me a little dopey and a little weird. But hey, at least I can breathe. Max, other sea creatures. What kind of sea creatures, Deborah? I'm sorry. What?
So Deborah
said, are on medicine or should be on medicine. Sometimes you forget to take your pills,
So do you think a 40-footer will ever be maybe caught or found dead?
Well, they don't float because they don't have swim bladders. So if one dies, unless it dies close to shore and gets carried in, it's going to sink. Yeah. They don't, they stop moving, they sink. That's the disadvantage of being, a lot of certain species of sharks, the ones that are, what do they call that? Obligate ram ventilators. They don't have buccal pumping. So like white sharks, makos, I think basking sharks, they have to keep swimming. They stop, they drown. That's why orcas could very easily kill one of these big mutant white sharks, we'll call them, like a 32-foot white shark. I mean, first of all, orcas get to be that size at the upper end, but if they grab a big shark like that by the tail, I mean, they can immobilize a blue whale that way, which is many times that size. They grab a big shark by the tail and hold it, it's going to start suffocating immediately. It's like, and that's it. It's over.
So where are great white shark populations now compared to, let's jump back 50 years?
I looked at it before, and the numbers, you keep getting different stories. Like people keep giving different estimates. The species is on the rebound compared to how it used to be when sport fishermen were slaughtering them and stuff. But you've got people out there from overseas countries that are killing millions of sharks every year. And I'm sure plenty of white sharks are getting chopped up for their fins. Long liners, things like that. I mean, I go on eBay, I look up great white shark teeth, there's a lot of them, and they're all coming from overseas. So, or almost all of them, but hopefully, like I said, they seem to be on the rebound, although those orcas off of the coast of South Africa are certainly taking their toll. You heard about that, right?
No, I haven't. So the orcas eat great whites?
They do. There's a pair of them off South Africa. They call them port and starboard. That's because they have their fins. One leans to the port, the other one leans to starboard. These two big bulls, and they're like a tag team. And they just love slaughtering sharks, any kind. But they specialize in killing big great whites. And the sharks don't have a prayer.
And they don't eat them. They just kill them.
They rip them open. They eat their livers, and then they leave the rest to rot. Now the liver is large. Don't get me wrong, but that's like, it's like that they just want the one juicy part, and then they leave the rest. They keep washing up on shore.
Interesting.
And every time they do that, the sharks flee the area. We had a few years back, we had like a surge of all these white sharks showing up from out of nowhere. And I believe that's because so many of them were getting killed by these orcas. They were fleeing, and other ones were pushing other ones out, and then they were all ending up on the California coast. Hordes of white sharks. Scared for their lives.
So where does a guy like you who thinks so much about the ocean think about all these land cryptids like Bigfoot? And do you have an opinion? Do you think
I want to go fishing with Bigfoot? That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Right? I'm looking. Hey, listen, if I'm going to go fishing for a 30-foot shark, I need somebody with the muscle to handle an unlimited class rod. And a Bigfoot has got the guns to do that. I saw one once swimming, believe it or not.
A
many
Bigfoot?
Years ago. Yes.
Swimming?
It was, okay, to be clear, I did not know what it was at the time. I was much younger, 30 years younger. Okay. I did not know what Bigfoot was. I might have seen like the film on TV or whatever,
wow.
like the Gimlin clip or whatever, and just ignored it. But I didn't know what it was. I watched it for like 15 minutes, and it was diving for crayfish.
Oh,
yeah,
crayfish.
And it was, I was sitting on this gravel hill, causeway in Connecticut at a lake, and I would see the head, and I was like, I'm like sitting there fishing. I had bobbers out, so I was like very quiet, crack of dawn, and nobody around.
What?
And and then you would see like I thought it was a muskrat, and I said no, too big. Beaver, and the head was the size of a beaver. Understand? I was like, because it was that color. No, not a beaver. And the head was round, by the way. It wasn't conical. But and then I was like, I stood up, and because it would go on there for like a couple minutes, and then it would come back up, and then it was a little closer each time, and it would go under again. And I was like, I had no bites. It was like it's so much rain the night before. The water was like coffee. But and so I stood up, and I was like, what is that? It's not a deer. And then I noticed it was like stretched out behind it. Like when I stood up, you could see, you got to understand you're like still almost water level. So the head was in the front and parts behind. I'm like, is that an Irish setter? Because it was kind of that color, but I'm like, no, it's not a deer. And then I started realizing there were legs behind it, like, in the distance behind the head, like way back there. And it was really weird because the legs like move together, like when it would swim. Like it would go to move.
That's interesting information, Max.
Yep. And so, if anybody ever gets good footage of one swimming and the legs are moving together, you're like, wow, Max was right. See? But
well, the thing is, I mean, they call them the water apes. They're known for their swimming skills.
This thing was unbelievable. And then eventually, because I was like so curious, I started backing up the hill, to try and get like a better look at it. And it like to have a beer with Bigfoot. Let's make it a weekend. Dude, see? That's it. You're going to need a big mug, much, much bigger than my daughter's Stitch mug, though. Actually, I have that. Where's that giant mug at I had before? Well, anyway, so when I backed up the hill, I must have like loosened like some gravel, and it, some of the rocks slipped, and then it realized I was there. Because this whole time, I was just sitting on a bucket, real quiet watching this thing. And then it splashed like this, and as it dove, its shoulder and its upper arm and its forearm, like this, broke the surface of the water. And it was very muscular. I mean, more muscular than me, okay? And covered with long, very thick, obviously very wet hair. And it went under like this. And I'm like, I thought it was like a huge orangutan or something like that. Like, one of these rich people in Connecticut, their pet orangutan is out diving in the lake for crayfish. I mean, I didn't know it was diving for crayfish at the time. I figured that out later. But, so then it was swimming, and then it was like a little channel near me that went under the overpass and into the other lake, and it was rushing through there. So I went right over, which was only like 10 feet away or 15 feet away, to try and see it, but it was deep down, but you saw this big shadowy shape hurtle by, and the water went like this from it. And before, like when it was in a distance, I thought it was smaller. I thought it was maybe 5 feet long. Hence, I'm thinking like, a big Irish setter. But when it went by, it seemed a lot bigger, and I was a little alarmed. Like I was like, whoa, like, wait, what is that? Like that kind of thing. But, and then it jetted through. But anyway, and there's more to the story, but I don't know.
That is a crazy story.
Yeah. And a guy, when I talked about this on some podcast like last year, he wrote in to the show, and he was talking about he had been that same exact lake, the same area. He knew it. And he said, yes, there are lots of crayfish there. We used to get them, like they would camp there and get the crayfish from out onto the rocks and the shallows to eat. So this thing was, that whole area was built up rocks to build up that overpass, for people to go through, like, what do they call that? A causeway. That's what it's called. They had built it up so people could drive between the two lakes or whatever and stuff. So he confirmed that. And then he said how his friends, like they stopped camping there back in the late 80s, I think it was, or early 80s, because their camp had been ransacked by someone or something and ripped their camp to pieces, tore their tents up, scattered their stuff. And they thought it was, as he called it, drug-crazed hippies. So they weren't going back. But their friends went back the following year, and they were like, watch out for the hippies. And they were out on the lake near the mountainside where it's all, like government land or whatever. And they said they were in a canoe close to shore, and they're, rowing along. And then all of a sudden you hear this crashing. It was a little, like a little clearing, let's say, a small clearing. And this big buck came barreling out of the woods, this little clearing, dove into the water right in front of them, terrified, and swam for its life. Didn't care that they were there. He just swam and swam and swam. Max, you're leaving me looking salty. I don't know what that means.
We had him on. He works in a salt mine, Max.
Oh,
he was on tonight. Yeah. He was
Get
talking
it?
about his weird job where he goes to work and he goes down an elevator almost a half a mile down every day. Yeah, in a dark
I
salt
wouldn't want
mine.
that job. I have this issues with enclosed spaces. But so he was saying that. Yeah.
Okay.
So this
I gotta back you
Okay.
up, Max.
Okay.
So what state was this in?
Connecticut.
Yeah. Wow, there's not many sightings in Connecticut, but was it on the border?
It was Danbury, the Danbury area.
Oh, okay.
Candlewood
So
Lake
it's
to be exact. Well, actually, Swans Pond, and then it went into Candlewood Lake because they connect. See,
heavily
So-
wooded. Heavily wooded.
Oh my God, the woods there are brutal. I mean, boulders the size of cottages. It's all mountainous. It's
Oh,
you know,
wow.
you could break your ankle, neck, or leg in there very easily. So he said that when this deer ran in front of them, then they heard something chasing it and crashing through the brush, and they thought it was a hunter. And right away, I'm like, no hunter. I know those woods. It's running through there. You will die. Honestly,
Wow.
I mean, it is so hilly and treacherous, and like forget it. But I mean, what hunter can chase and keep pace with a buck? That's bred for this type of terrain to begin with.
Wow.
But he said whatever it was stopped short of the clearing, and it was a small clearing. Okay, like I don't know how many feet, and it wouldn't come past there. And then it started pelting them with stuff, rocks, pine cones, branches, stuff like that. Like every minute or so, like something else would fly over and boom and hit them or land right next to them and stuff like that, which, as you probably know, is primate behavior. When they don't like somebody or something, Bigfoot do this a lot, or notorious, they start throwing stuff at you. Okay. And this kept going on for like 15 minutes, and they finally, hey, we're in a canoe, cut it out or whatever, and stop. And then it stopped. But whatever it was never showed itself. And it couldn't have been a bear. I mean, bears don't pick up pine cones and throw them.
No.
And I can't picture a person chasing a buck. I mean, a buck would just dodge you and run off into the woods. This had to be something that was fast enough to keep pace with it, that it was so scared, it thought its only recourse was to dive into the water and swim across a mile-wide lake, which is where it headed. Okay.
Gosh.
So, yeah. And he said it was a big, beautiful buck, by the way. But, yeah, so that's what happened.
So when you saw the fur, did it repel water, or did it seem?
It was drenched, like thick streaming. Like it was like how can I say this? I don't want to say clumpy, but it was like obviously soaked to the skin.
Yep.
Okay, but I was impressed by the muscularity. Honestly,
Wow.
I was a little
It's
jealous.
actually, I bet you've never reported this to like the BFRO or.
No, because honestly, until I started doing research for Monsters and Marine Mysteries, I never even thought about it, And then I was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. And then I started researching, and I actually found an old newspaper article or something from that same area, and it said, fishermen report hairy wild child in lake. And, it's like 100 years ago, like 1918 or something like that. I don't know.
Wow.
Here. But and then a person, cryptozoologist, said, well, that's because back then they didn't have the terms Bigfoot and Sasquatch and stuff like that. So juvenile. And I thought what I saw was a juvenile, like a young one. It was like addicted to crayfish. Like if you were like addicted to potato chips, and it would sneak out at the crack of dawn or in
nature's
pre-dawn.
nachos.
Yeah. I don't know. But, but it didn't seem that small when it swam underwater past me, though. So I don't know.
So Alex, okay, all right. You got to Google Bigfoot sightings in Connecticut, Alex. Do that now, because I don't think there's been many reports.
There's
no
a few.
doubt there's probably been some, but I'm just curious.
No trackway. That's Cleveland.
But that is an amazing sighting, Max, because you got to witness.
It was bizarre. Yeah.
Oh man, no wonder you. It's probably that experience that got you more intrigued with the water and the mysteries under the water than anything. That would be my guess.
I have a penchant for like one time I was fishing a lake in New Jersey, and I hooked what had to be the mother of all snapping turtles. I mean, I was trolling in a relatively shallow area, and it blasted a crankbait, and it was boom like this, and I was trying to pull it up, and I could not move this thing, with a rod. I could feel it, whatever it was down there, So then I had this rig that you slide on your line with these blunt trebles and a ring, and it hooks onto the crankbait. So I did that, and I snagged the crankbait, and I started trying to pull this thing to the surface. And I got off the bottom. It was very heavy. And I started bringing it up, and it would get, as soon as it saw the light, it was like you could feel it going, and it would turn around and force its way back down. And eventually the split ring on the thing popped, and I lost it and whatever. But it had to be like an immense turtle, like, 60, 70 pounds or something like that.
Jeez.
I have these weird experiences like that. I had another one in Jersey where me and my dad saw, this is actually in the book, what we were convinced was a giant freshwater stingray that somebody had released into this lake. Because we were out there and we saw these, what we thought were two big fish underwater, 6 feet apart, swimming. And when a big fish swims along, you could see the water like swirl a little bit above it, when it's moving. Okay. So this thing, like when a bass comes up to crash, like a bobber bait, or something like that, you'll see the water do this, like, the upheaval, we'll call it. Okay. So there were two of these markings. It looked like two really huge fish, 6 feet apart and swimming. And I'm like, maybe there's a pair of carp, really big catfish, but why are they swimming in tandem and all this stuff? And it was weird when they swam. I started following with the trolling motor. It was an electric only lake. Trying to get closer to it, when I would get a certain distance, it would accelerate to get away. And then it would slow down. I would start to creep up on it again. And whenever it turned, instead of turning, like if you figure two fish are turning, they would turn like this. It didn't. It turned like that type thing, and my dad was like, you think those are two parts of the same animal? And I'm like, nah, that's impossible. And then I'm like, wait a minute. And, freshwater stingray, when they swim, they undulate their exterior edges of their fins like that.
Yeah.
And that would create that upward motion. And it's literally 6 feet wide. And I should have gone back with a heavy, I went back, honestly, a few days later with a fishing bow and arrow. And I didn't see it. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would have taken a shot at it, But I mean, I could have gone there with like a heavy weighted treble to snag it with heavy line and stuff.
Yeah.
But if it is one of these things, and there's evidence of that same lake that there's enormous snakehead in there, which tells you that somebody with a big fish tank dumped his fish in that lake.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to be. So, but, I mean, that thing could weigh 600 or 700 pounds.
So David Ellis, who you do know,
Mm-hmm.
so the BFRO has 11 sightings in Litchfield County, Connecticut. It was, in fact, David who introduced us.
Mm-hmm. And he is a gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah, he is. But so was your sighting in Litchfield County?
I don't know what county that would count as. We used to have a house in Danbury, but this was Squan's Pond at the border, the separation between Squan's Pond and Candlewood Lake, the causeway that separates.
David, can you find Candlewood Lake and see if that's in Litchfield?
Oh, I'm sure you can. It's got 50 miles of coastline. It's big. Gosh. It's probably like Fairfield County or something like that.
Super interesting story. And it didn't make any noise. There was no noise.
Very quiet. Yeah, incredibly quiet. The only noise you heard was when it got spooked and it dove.
Yeah.
So it was just dive.
So you got to watch a Bigfoot making a living for how long? How many minutes?
15 minutes, maybe.
Gosh.
Yeah, but all I saw was like the top half of its head and a little bit of its back. It was like facing me and stretched out that way. You understand? Because when I looked up and I saw the legs, they were really looked thin and small compared to the head because they were stretched out behind it.
Yeah.
Alex is eating a donut.
Yeah, that's probably what he is doing.
Hashtag jealous. Hashtag.
Are you dieting? Are you dieting?
Oh, I got to lose like 50 pounds.
It's my God, you look like a rail. What are you talking about?
Nah, dude, I'm like, if I lose 50 pounds, I'll weigh about 200 still.
Oh,
okay.
Geez.
You see, I just hide it well. I wear these loose shirts and,
How tall are you?
6'1".
6'1". I'm 6 foot and I'm all of 250. But people say, yeah, you wear, I don't look fat, I guess. You just big dudes.
Untold Radio. Thank you. You're very kind.
That's probably Alex. I think that's Alex that's in there. Oh, maybe not. Somebody else. I don't know. So your sighting to me is like one of the best I've ever heard.
All I can tell you. But the funny part is I didn't know this whole time. You understand what I'm saying? Like for me, I'm like, what the heck am I looking at here? Because when I first saw the head, I'm like, oh, look, there's a muskrat. It was fairly far. I don't know, 150 feet away, maybe something like that. It wasn't close. And then it got a little closer because it would go under and it would come up again, and it could hold its breath a long time. and it would go under, and it would come up again. And I imagine it was getting a crayfish or two coming up, chomp, 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 going back under, this type of thing. And I'm like, it's too big to be a muskrat. I'm like, it's a beaver. Yeah, it's definitely a beaver. And the color, I could see the reddish, because the sun was starting to come up at this point. And I'm like, it's not a beaver. There's what's behind there, And I'm like, deer? No, because deer, everybody thinks like champ, sightings, a lot of them are deer swimming. You see the head, the neck, and they do the Loch Ness Monster thing. You see a deer and you see the body. No, it wasn't a deer. I'm like, Irish setter. No.
Oh, okay. I got good news for you, Max.
What's that?
There's been 11 sightings in Litchfield County. Your lake is in Litchfield County. That just adds more credibility to your Bigfoot theory. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. I mean, I looked it up and I found sightings going back like 100 years.
Gosh.
Like for it. I mean, like people being harassed by them, like women being approached by huge, hairy, ape-like creatures and stuff like that. Screaming, fainting. It was all the style back then to faint, like, I feel faint. I'm going to try that one of these days. When my wife asks me to do some chore I don't want to do. Oh, I feel faint. Oh.
Well,
her and my daughter
if we live long enough, Max, that's exactly what we're going to do. Because men turn into big babies when they get older. You get older. You get in your 80s, you'll be.
Dude, I've been a big baby.
You'll be whining. So where in the world did Alex go? This is a new one.
If he's got 12 donuts and we're not getting any, I'm a little upset. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm here far away, but you should have one for God's sake. Are they Krispy
I'm having
Kremes?
a feeling something's happened to his computer.
Bathroom break. I don't know. The fainting bit in the front of the wife doesn't work. Been there, tried that. Damn it. Max has such great animation in his voice. Thank you, Patty B. I could start doing my announcer voice. Hi there, this is Max Hawthorne, and I'm here live from... What show is this?
So everybody was teasing because we had 3 kind of high-energy guests tonight, and you're one of them. It's a high-energy themed show.
I'm actually exhausted and sick, but you're not catching me in my best. But if I come on again and I'm better...
Oh, my God, yeah. We don't want to see that. We don't want to... We don't want to see that, Max.
I'll start telling those horrible dad jokes that I make up and stuff. Like I invented a couple great dinosaur jokes, dad jokes. Like literally, this is my joke. Okay, why was the Stegosaurus thrown out of the buffet?
Why was the Stegosaurus thrown out of the buffet, Max?
Because he brought his own plates. Get it? Plated lizard.
Yeah. I get it, but it wasn't funny at all.
Well, that's why they're dad jokes.
I know. Yeah.
But cue the sound effects. I don't faint. I pull my pistol. Harry Lynn, I don't get it. Well, you have to look up a Stegosaurus, Harry Lynn. Stegosaurus, and its scientific name means plated lizard, and you'll see what's on its back, and then you'll appreciate it. It's more like a paleontology joke. I'm sorry. Well, on that note, we went past your deadline here.
No, we're okay. Alex coming back on.
Hey, sorry about that, guys.
He had something.
How many donuts did you have? And don't lie to us.
Is it still on my face?
Well,
oh my God, you really went and had donuts?
No.
Jeez, that's so mean.
Well, thanks, Max, for coming on.
Thank you.
You're an awesome guest. We're definitely gonna get you back. I know you got a million stories. They never end, right?
Yeah, I never stop talking. You ask my daughter, she'll tell you. But I'm familiar with dinosaurs. Max saw them at the Bishop Museum. Cool.
Okay.
But yes, listen, thank you so much for having me on. And once again, to any guests on there, if you guys want to get that free book, go on Amazon, look up Cronus Rising Diablo today, tomorrow, and Friday only. It's on the house. You can read it on any device. And if you like dinosaurs, you like Jurassic Park, you like sea monsters, this will be right up your alley. It's on me.
Very, very kind of you, Max. We do appreciate that. Big time.
Least I could do, guys, honestly.
All right. Thanks, audience. And we really appreciate you spending your Wednesday evening with us. And why don't you go ahead and take us away with the ending? Thanks.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine. You and I will always know where we belong. This ain't no ordinary love we got going on. I'll pick you up in my 59 Ford. We head on down the road until we get bored. Just you and me and the sun and the wind. If the rain should start falling, we'll head on home again. Everybody else can see where we belong. Oh, ain't no ordinary love we got going on. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be in doubt, and I'll pray they never can pull us apart, and I'll wait for the time when we'll be together every day. But I know if ever we'll be led astray, that I'll find my way back home to you again. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be in doubt, and I pray they never can pull us apart, and